Close your eyes. Take a deep, slow breath in, filling your lungs with the quiet air of the present moment, and then let it go completely. Let the heavy weight of the day slide off your shoulders. Leave behind the endless noise, the flashing screens, the constant demands, and the frantic, relentless pace of the modern world. None of those things can follow you here. Tonight, we are stepping backward through the fabric of time, travelling nearly 1,000 years into the past to a place of absolute sanctuary, profound stillness, and timeless peace. Imagine yourself standing before a heavy, iron-studded timber door, tucked away inside the massive stone walls of a Byzantine monastery. This sacred refuge is perched high on a rugged cliff overlooking the ancient city of Thessaloniki. The year is 1050. Outside, a gentle, warm Mediterranean breeze sweeps across the dark, undulating waters of the Aegean Sea, carrying the faint, salty whisper of the waves far below. But inside these thick, transient stone walls, the air is completely transformed. It is perfectly still, wonderfully cool, and deeply comforting. As you push the heavy wooden door open, it glides shut behind you with a soft, solid thud, sealing out the rest of the world. You have entered the monastery scriptorium, a dedicated room where sacred texts and ancient knowledge are painstakingly preserved letter by letter, page by page. This space is a cocoon of absolute safety. The stone walls, carved from the very bedrock of the hillside, are several feet thick. They have stood for generations, absorbing the heat of summer and the chill of winter, maintaining a steady, protective envelope that shields everything within from the volatile elements outside. In this room, time does not rush forward. It flows like a slow, deep river. There are no clocks ticking, no alarms waiting to ring, and no tasks that must be finished in a hurry. There is only the beautiful, quiet present. The air here is clean and carries a unique, deeply comforting aroma. In the center of this intimate, stone-lined chamber sits a lone scribe. He is a man who has dedicated his entire life to the quiet, meditative art of calligraphy and illumination. He sits upon a sturdy, low wooden bench at a heavy oak desk, sits, surface angled slightly toward him to catch the light perfectly. He does not look up as you enter, not out of coldness, but because he is entirely, beautifully absorbed in his sacred work. His focus is so serene, so absolute, that it radiates a sense of calm throughout the entire room, inviting your own restless mind to share in his profound tranquility. Beside his right hand rests a single, thick candle made of pure, sun-refined beeswax. Its flame does not flicker wildly. Instead, it burns with a steady, soft, golden glow that casts long, gentle shadows across the smooth stone walls. The light is incredibly warm and soft, completely free of the harsh glare of modern illumination. It creates a small, mesmerizing oasis of clarity on the desk, illuminating the page before him while leaving the corners of the room draped in a soft, protective blanket of velvety darkness. Listen closely to the silence of the scriptorium. It is not a cold, empty silence, but a rich, living quietude filled with the most soothing, rhythmic sounds imaginable. The primary sound filling the space is the soft, continuous whisper of a goose quill gliding across the surface of a fresh sheet of parchment. The sound is incredibly delicate, yet perfectly rhythmic. It rises and falls with a steady cadence, like the gentle breathing of a sleeping child. every few moments. The rhythmic scratching stops. There is a brief, peaceful pause. The scribe lifts the quill with a practiced, elegant motion and gently dips the tip into a small, dark glass inkwell resting in a circular cutout on his desk. You hear the faint, crystalline clink of the quill touching the rim of the glass, followed by a tiny, soft splash as it absorbs the dark iron gall ink. Then, the quill returns to the page, and the soothing, hypnotic melody of writing begins once again. This repetitive, predictable rhythm acts as an anchor for your thoughts, gently pulling your mind away from any lingering worries and lulling you deeper and deeper into a state of serene, restorative relaxation. The heavy oak desk before the scribe is a monument to centuries of tradition, built to withstand the test of time and support the immense weight of human devotion. Its surface is scarred with the faint, beautiful lines of old ink stains, each a tiny ghost of a word written long ago, telling its own silent story of preservation and memory. The wood itself is dark, seasoned by generations of use, and polished to a dull, comforting sheen by the constant friction of wool sleeves and resting forearms. On this sturdy surface rests a large sheet of calfskin parchment, pinned flat by smooth, heavy river stones, placed carefully at each corner. This parchment is unlike any paper you have ever touched in the modern world. It is thick, substantial, and possesses a life of its own, holding a texture that is simultaneously rugged and exquisitely smooth. It has an organic cream color, a hue born of natural elements which catches the warm beeswax candlelight and diffuses it in a way that is profoundly gentle on the eyes. Your gaze is naturally drawn to the point where the quill meets this ancient surface, a boundary where thoughts are frozen into physical form. The scribe holds the quill with a relaxed yet firm grip, his fingers displaying the practiced ease of a master craftsman who no longer needs to think about the mechanics of his art. The tip of the goose feather has been sliced cleanly at an angle, custom carved by his own small iron knife to ensure that every stroke yields the exact thickness required by the traditional Byzantine script. As he draws the quill downward, the ink flows smoothly, filling the pre-ruled guidelines with flawless, uniform letters that look as though they were printed by an invisible machine, yet possess the subtle, warm irregularities that only a human hand can produce. The rhythm of his breath is perfectly synchronized with the movement of his hand. He inhales as he lifts the quill to inspect his progress, and exhales in a long, slow stream as he executes a long, sweeping stroke across the parchment. You find yourself breathing along with him, adjusting your own internal pace to match the unhurried cadence of his work, feeling your chest rise and fall in harmony with this ancient ritual. The room seems to expand around this single point of focus, the darkness in the corners growing softer and more protective, creating an impenetrable barrier against any outside disturbance. Outside the small arched window high above, the stars continue their slow, silent dance across the night sky over Thessaloniki, but inside this room the universe has shrunk to the size of a single desk, a single candle and a single page. There is no past to regret and no future to worry about. There is only the present moment expanding outward into an infinity of calm. You can hear the distant, muffled sound of the sea crashing against the cliffs far below, but it is so faint that it sounds like nothing more than a gentle heartbeat, a soothing reminder that the world is still there, but that you are safely removed from its chaotic tides. The metallic tang of the iron gall ink is more noticeable now, a sharp, clean scent that grounds your senses and connects you directly to the raw materiality of the craft. This ink is made from crushed oak galls, iron sulfate and gum arabic, cooked slowly over a small fire until it reaches a deep, permanent blackness that will survive for 1,000 years without fading. It is an ink designed for eternity, intended to carry these words across oceans of time to readers who have not yet been born, and knowing this gives the scribe's movements an even deeper sense of purpose and stability. He pauses for a moment, not out of exhaustion, but to let a particularly heavy line of ink dry before continuing. And during this pause, the absolute silence of the monastery folds over you like a warm, heavy blanket. The candlelight flickers just a fraction as a tiny pocket of air catches the flame, causing the shadows on the stone walls to shift in a slow, hypnotic dance that resembles the gentle movement of seaweed under clear water. You watch these shadows, your eyes growing heavier with every passing second, your mind completely surrendered to the overwhelming peace of this sacred space. The scribe stretches his fingers slightly, a slow and deliberate movement, before picking up a small pumice stone to gently smooth out a tiny imperfection near the edge of the sheet. The sound of the stone against the parchment is a dry, soft hiss, a new texture in the auditory tapestry of the room that is just as relaxing as the whisper of the quill. He sweeps away the microscopic dust with a small brush made of badger hair, his movements so careful and reverent that it feels as though he is tending to a sleeping infant. Every action, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, is performed with the exact same level of devotion and care, demonstrating a way of living that prioritizes depth over speed and quality over quantity. This philosophy of slowness begins to seep into your own consciousness, dissolving the urgent knots of tension that have lived in your mind for so long, replacing them with a vast open space of stillness. You realize that there is absolutely nothing you need to accomplish right now. No messages to answer, no problems to solve, and no expectations to meet. You are permitted to simply exist, to be a silent observer of this beautiful ancient act of creation. The scribe dips his quill once more, the soft click against the glass echoing like a distant bell in the quiet room, and as the black liquid clings to the feather, he returns his hand to the waiting page, ready to weave another line of timeless beauty into the fabric of history. The darkness outside the high-arched window deepens, turning from a rich midnight blue into a profound velvety black that seems to cushion the monastery in an absolute universal quiet. Down below, the city of Thessaloniki sleeps, its bustling markets, crowded ports, and grand stone avenues completely subdued by the late hour, leaving only the scriptorium alive with a soft, pulsing golden energy. The scribe now turns his attention to a small wooden chest resting on a shelf beside his heavy oak desk, a chest made of fragrant cedar that releases a warm, woody aroma when the lid is lifted. Inside this chest lie the precious pigments and materials reserved exclusively for the art of illumination, each substance gathered from the farthest corners of the earth through long, dangerous trade routes across mountains and seas. He reaches inside with slow, deliberate fingers and withdraws a small, flat wooden pallet, upon which are arranged tiny mounds of pure color, ground by hand using a heavy stone pestle until they are as fine as dust. There is brilliant ultramarine blue, extracted from the rare lapis lazuli stones mined in the distant rugged mountains of Badakhshan, a blue so deep and mesmerizing that it looks like a fragment of the winter sky captured at twilight. Beside it sits a vibrant vermilion red, created from cinnabar, glowing with a fiery warmth that provides a stark, beautiful contrast to the cool tones of the parchment. He also possesses a small jar of malachite green, a rich, earthy hue that evokes the lush, damp forests of the northern wild woods, and a tiny container of real gold leaf beaten so incredibly thin that a single breath of air could blow it away like a spirit. The scribe selects a tiny, delicate brush made from the finest hairs of a winter marten, a tool so precise that it allows him to paint lines no thicker than a single strand of silk. He dips the tip of the brush into a small vial of clean well water, then gently works it into the corner of the ultramarine pigment, watching the powder dissolve into a rich, creamy liquid that clings beautifully to the hairs of the brush. With his left hand, he gently holds down the parchment, his skin looking warm and weathered against the pale calfskin, while his right hand hovers just millimeters above the surface, waiting for the perfect, calm moment between heartbeats to make the first stroke. When the brush finally touches the parchment, there is no sound at all, only a profound visual magic as a brilliant, deep blue line flows onto the page, forming the intricate, twisting vine of an ornamental capital letter. The letter begins to grow under his careful guidance, looping and spiraling around itself in a complex geometric dance that mirrors the underlying order of the universe. It is a slow, deeply hypnotic process to watch. Every tiny stroke requires absolute stillness, forcing the scribe to hold his body completely steady, becoming as unmoving as the stone walls around him. This stillness is contagious, spreading outwards from his bench and washing over you, grounding your physical body and slowing your heart rate until you feel completely anchored to the floor. The warmth from the thick beeswax candle radiates outward in gentle waves, kissing your face and hands, creating a small zone of perfect comfort that shields you from the cool night air that occasionally whispers through the high window. The scent of the melting wax changes slightly as the flame consumes the pure honeyed substance, releasing a faint, sweet aroma that fills your senses and induces a deep, heavy feeling of peace behind your eyes. You can feel your eyelids growing heavier with every tiny movement of the brush, fascinated by the way the deep blue ink fills the fibers of the parchment, settling into the rough texture and becoming a permanent part of the manuscript. The scribe finishes the blue outline and sets the brush down with a soft, hollow click on the wooden tray, allowing the pigment to dry completely before the next layer can be applied. He takes this opportunity to look out the narrow window, his gaze wandering across the invisible sea, listening to the rhythmic, distant sigh of the waves as they lap against the base of the cliffs far below. It is a sound that has repeated every single night for thousands of years, a timeless lullaby that reinforces the absolute safety and permanence of this sanctuary. Nothing can harm you here, nothing can disturb the sacred work of this room, which has continued uninterrupted through wars, empires, and the long march of centuries. The scribe turns back to his desk, his face illuminated by the golden candlelight, showing the deep lines of peace and contentment etched around his eyes and mouth, the marks of a life spent in quiet, meaningful devotion. He reaches for a small curved horn containing a mixture of organic glue made from boiled fish bones, a traditional adhesive used to secure the precious gold leaf to the page. He uses a clean brush to apply a microscopic layer of this glue to the center of the illuminated letter, creating a sticky base that shines faintly in the candlelight. Then, using a wide, flat brush made of soft squirrel hair that has been charged with static electricity by rubbing it against his sleeve, he lifts a single glittering square of gold leaf from its paper nest. The gold hovers in the air, rippling like liquid light, completely weightless and impossibly delicate, before the scribe lowers it with absolute precision onto the glued area. He breathes a tiny warm breath onto the gold, the moisture from his lungs helping the adhesive to grip the metal, a technique passed down through generations of master illuminators. The gold leaf settles instantly, conforming to every tiny bump and texture of the parchment, transformed from a fragile sheet into a solid, gleaming shield of pure light that reflects the candle flame with breathtaking brilliance. He takes a small, highly polished piece of agate stone, mounted on a wooden handle, and begins to burnish the gold, rubbing it with a gentle circular motion that produces a soft, rhythmic clicking sound. As the agate moves over the metal, the gold changes from a dull metallic yellow into a mirror-like surface of blindingly beautiful light, catching every stray beam of candlelight and throwing it across the room. The visual effect is deeply mesmerizing, creating a warm, pulsing rhythm of light and shadow that dances across the stone walls, lulling your mind into an even deeper state of restorative relaxation. The repetitive, circular motion of the burnisher becomes the center of your universe, a soothing focus that clears away the last remnants of mental chatter and leaves you in a state of pure, undivided awareness. You are completely safe, completely still, and completely at peace, wrapped in the protective cocoon of the scriptorium as the night continues its slow, majestic journey toward the dawn. The golden light of the single beeswax candle continues to pool over the heavy oak desk, casting long, soft shadows that stretch and yawn across the ancient stone walls of the scriptorium. The burnished gold leaf on the parchment now catches every shift of the flame, glowing with an inner intensity that seems to radiate its own gentle warmth into the cool evening air. The scribe sits perfectly poised, his spine straight yet relaxed, completely embodying the profound stillness of the monastery that surrounds him. He places the agate burnisher down with a faint wooden clink that resonates softly in the quiet room, and for a moment he simply looks at the page, allowing his eyes to rest on the newly vibrant colors and the gleaming gold. His breathing remains slow and deep, a rhythmic tide that seems to sync perfectly with the distant, muffled heartbeat of the Aegean Sea, washing against the cliffs far below the monastery walls. The air inside this stone sanctuary remains wonderfully temperate, a refreshing contrast to the humid, sun-drenched days of the Thessaloniki summer, offering a timeless refuge where the mind can truly unwind. Every element of this space is designed for preservation, not just of the ancient words written upon the calfskin, but of the internal peace of those who dwell within these sacred walls. You can feel this peace expanding within your own chest, a heavy, comforting sensation that gently presses down on your eyelids and relaxes the muscles of your jaw and shoulders. The scribe reaches for his bone folder, a smooth, polished tool carved from the shin of an ox, used to crease the parchment sheets with absolute precision so they will lay flat when bound into the final manuscript. The sound of the bone sliding across the thick, textured skin is a low, satisfying hiss, a comforting note in the quiet symphony of the room that speaks of order, care, and deliberate craftsmanship. There is no rush in his movements, no anxiety about the passage of time or the number of pages left to complete before the sun rises over the eastern hills. In this year of Dwet 1050, the concept of time is measured not by minutes or seconds, but by the slow consumption of the wax candle, the changing light of the sky, and the gradual growth of the beautiful book before him. This liberation from the clock is incredibly freeing, a soothing balm for a modern mind that is so used to rushing from one task to the next without a moment to simply breathe. As you watch the scribe, you're invited to let go of your own schedule, to forget about tomorrow, and to immerse yourself completely in this single perfect moment of absolute safety. He picks up a small, fine-grained sponge, dampens it slightly with water from an earthen jar, and gently dabs a tiny spot on the margin of the parchment where a minuscule speck of dust had settled. The care he takes with this single sheet is a testament to his devotion, treating every square inch of the material as if it were a sacred landscape worthy of the utmost reverence. The faint, sweet smell of the honeyed wax mixes with the clean, natural scent of the damp parchment, creating an olfactory atmosphere that is deeply grounding and familiar, like a safe home you have known for a lifetime. He then takes a long, thin ruler made of dark ebony wood and places it carefully across the page, aligning it with the tiny pinpricks he made earlier along the edges to guide his script. Using a dry, hard lead stylus, he draws a series of incredibly faint silver-grey lines across the cream-coloured surface, lines that will serve as invisible pathways for his quill to follow in the coming hours. The sound of the stylus trailing along the wood is a crisp, clean whisper, a sound that breaks the silence only to emphasize just how deep and profound that silence truly is. With the guidelines laid down, the scribe returns to his inkwell, dipping the quill with that same familiar, practiced elegance that has become the steady heartbeat of your relaxation. The faint clink of the quill against the glass rim is a beautiful, crystalline sound, followed by the soft, almost imperceptible splash of the dark iron gall ink. He brings the quill back to the parchment, and the soothing, rhythmic scratching begins anew, drawing your awareness into the intricate shapes of the letters as they appear on the page. Each letter is a masterpiece of balance and symmetry. Traditional Byzantine minuscules that curve and flow with an organic grace reminiscent of the waves outside or the vines growing along the monastery courtyard. You find yourself drifting into a state of light hypnosis, your gaze tracking the steady, predictable movement of his hand as it travels from left to right, line by line, page by page. The room feels incredibly secure, an impenetrable fortress of stone and faith that has withstood the elements for centuries and will continue to stand long after this night has passed. The thick walls absorb the distant sounds of the night, filtering them until they are nothing more than a soft ambient texture that enhances the solitude of the scriptorium rather than disrupting it. A gentle draught from the high window causes the candle flame to bow slightly, making the shadows on the wall perform a slow, elegant waltz before the light rights itself, burning once again with its steady, golden clarity. The scribe does not blink, completely locked into the beautiful flow of his creation, his mind a mirror of the calm, unchanging environment around him. This absolute consistency provides a profound sense of emotional stability, a reassurance that everything is exactly as it should be, and that you are completely permitted to rest your body and mind in this sacred, timeless space. The deep, comforting quiet of the scriptorium continues to wrap around you like a protective shield, casting away the noise and clutter of the modern world. Inside this ancient room of stone, time has completely dissolved, leaving only the soft, warm pool of light from the single beeswax candle and the steady rhythmic movements of the scribe at his heavy oak desk. He sits in perfect alignment with his work, his breath still flowing in a slow, deep cadence that gently guides his steady hand across the smooth parchment sheet. The metallic scent of the iron gall ink is rich and grounding your senses in this small oasis of absolute serenity and safety. As you sit here in the quiet dark, letting the peaceful atmosphere wash over your tired mind, you might want to bring a piece of this tranquil evening into your own life. If you find comfort in these historical journeys and wish to experience more moments of deep restorative relaxation, please take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment sharing what historical era brings you the greatest sense of peace. Your support allows us to continue creating these soothing escapes for your mind, helping to preserve these timeless spaces of rest and reflection for everyone who needs them. The scribe carefully lifts his quill from the page, his movements entirely unhurried, and sets it into a small wooden rest carved into the corner of his desk. He turns his attention to a small clay jar filled with a fine golden sand gathered from the shores of the Aegean Sea just below the monastery cliffs. He dips a small polished horn spoon into the jar, scooping up a small amount of the dry, glistening sand, and then with a gentle sweeping motion of his wrist he scatters it evenly across the freshly written lines of text. The sound of the sand hitting the parchment is a soft, dry whisper, like the rustle of autumn leaves in a gentle breeze or the sound of distant rain falling on a thatched roof. This sand serves a practical purpose, absorbing any excess moisture from the thick iron gall ink to ensure that the letters do not smudge or run as the manuscript is handled. The scribe lets the sand rest on the page for a long, peaceful moment, allowing the dry grains to do their quiet work, while he closes his eyes and takes a deep, restorative breath. You find yourself closing your eyes along with him, inhaling the sweet, comforting aroma of the melting beeswax and the clean, earthy scent of the dried calfskin, feeling your body sink deeper into a state of profound relaxation. After a minute of complete stillness, the scribe lifts the heavy sheet of parchment by its top edges, tilting it slightly over a wide wooden tray, and lets the golden sand slide gracefully off the page. The sand flows down the parchment in a smooth, continuous wave, making a soft, rhythmic, sweeping sound that adds another layer of deep tranquility to the silent room. He gently taps the back of the parchment with his knuckles to dislodge the very last grains of dust, a clear, hollow sound that echoes softly against the thick stone walls, leaving the dark ink perfectly dry, crisp, and beautifully bonded to the fibers of the page. He sets the sheet back down upon the desk, smoothing it out with the palm of his hand, a gesture of immense tenderness and respect for the material that has carried these words across the centuries. The gold leaf on the ornamental initial letter gleams with a breathtaking liquid brilliance under the candle flame, its polished surface catching the tiny variations of the fire and throwing a warm, dancing pattern of light across the smooth stone blocks of the chamber. This room is an impenetrable fortress against the anxieties of the outside world, a place where the only requirement is to slow down, to breathe, and to appreciate the beautiful, patient dedication of human hands. The scribe reaches for his small iron knife, using its sharp, curved blade to gently trim the tip of a fresh goose feather, preparing a new quill for the next section of the text. The sound of the blade slicing through the hollow quill is a sharp, clean click, followed by the soft sound of the feather being shaped with absolute precision, a testament to the masterly skill that lives in his fingertips. Every motion he makes is an act of meditation, a deliberate choice to focus entirely on the present task, completely free from the hurried pressures that so often dominate our daily lives. As you watch him work, you can feel the last remnants of your own tension melting away, replaced by the vast open stillness of the monastery night, a space where you are completely safe, completely supported, and entirely free to drift into a deep, peaceful sleep. The silence of the scriptorium deepens further as the middle of the night arrives, holding the monastery in a firm, loving embrace that feels completely isolated from the passage of time. The single beeswax candle has burned down slightly, creating a beautiful translucent pool of melted golden wax around the wick that catches the flame and amplifies its soft, warm radiance. The scribe takes a fresh sheet of unblemished parchment from the neat stack resting on the cedar shelf beside him, handling it with the same immense reverence that has guided his movements since the early evening. This new sheet is slightly lighter in color, possessing a soft, velvety texture that seems to drink in the gentle candlelight, creating a visual surface that is incredibly soothing and comfortable to look upon. He aligns the margins with his experienced eyes, checking the symmetry of the page before placing the heavy, smooth river stones on the corners to keep it perfectly flat against the angled oak desk. The soft thud of the stones meeting the wood is a grounding, comforting sound, a reminder of the raw, natural materials that form the foundation of this ancient sanctuary of knowledge. He reaches for his small lead stylus once more, ready to score the invisible guidelines that will keep his beautiful Byzantine minuscules uniform and balanced across the entire expanse of the page. The whisper of the stylus moving along the dark ebony ruler creates a soft, consistent friction that acts as a gentle lullaby for your thoughts, drawing your mind into a deeper state of serene quietude. There is a magnificent simplicity to this process, an unhurried dedication to quality and beauty that completely rejects the modern urge to finish everything as quickly as possible. Here, the only thing that matters is the perfect alignment of a single line, the precise curve of a single letter, and the total meditative immersion of the self into the craft. The scribe finishes ruling the page and sets the ebony wood ruler down with a soft, hollow sound that blends seamlessly into the background hum of the quiet room. He looks at his reflection in the dark, still surface of the glass inkwell, his expression one of profound contentment and inner stillness, the look of a man who has found his true purpose in the quiet service of history. He gently swirls the dark liquid with a tiny wooden stick to keep the iron sulfate and crushed oak galls perfectly mixed, releasing a fresh wave of that metallic, clean scent that has become a familiar anchor for your senses. This scent, combined with the sweet fragrance of the honeyed wax, creates an atmosphere of deep, nostalgic comfort, reminding you of a place of absolute safety where you can let go of all responsibilities and simply exist. He dips the freshly carved goose quill into the dark inkwell, the faint crystalline clink of the quill touching the rim sounding like a distant bell echoing through the quiet halls of the monastery. He brings the tip to the parchment, pausing for a single peaceful heartbeat, and then begins the rhythmic, hypnotic scratching that has filled this room for centuries. The sound is a delicate whisper, scritch, scratch, whisper, rising and falling with the steady, calm pace of his hand, creating a beautiful auditory pattern that gently coaxes your mind away from any remaining stress. You feel your breathing slow even further, matching the slow, deliberate pace of the quill as it weaves an intricate tapestry of words upon the page, each letter a monument to human patience and care. Sleepy History with Arthur is a sleep history storytelling platform created for entertainment, inspiration, education, and the promotion of positive emotional values. The midnight air passing through the high-arched window remains cool and crisp, a gentle contrast to the deep golden warmth that radiates from the scribe's desk. The flame of the single beeswax candle burns with an incredible steady clarity, illuminating the freshly written lines of Byzantine script until they appear to lift slightly off the surface of the cream-colored parchment. The scribe works with a quiet, tireless energy, his mind completely attuned to the microscopic details of his craft, finding a deep and restorative joy in the absolute repetition of his movements. He lifts the goose quill to inspect the tip, ensuring that the ink flows with perfect uniformity, before gently setting it into its wooden groove to allow his fingers a brief, peaceful moment of rest. He reaches over to a small, beautifully carved wooden box that holds his collection of fine linen rags, selecting a soft, clean white square to gently wipe away any tiny remnants of wet ink from his fingertips. The dry, rustling sound of the linen against his skin is incredibly soft, adding another soothing texture to the quiet room a sound that whispers of cleanliness, order, and meticulous care. He folds the rag with slow, deliberate precision and sets it back into its place, his movements so calm and steady that they seem to slow down the very atmosphere of the chamber. This room is a sacred vault of tranquility built to insulate its inhabitants from the chaotic currents of the passing centuries, providing an impenetrable cocoon where the soul can rest and heal. You can feel the immense weight of this historical sanctuary pressing gently against your mind, melting away the sharp edges of modern worry and leaving a soft, vast expanse of inner quietude. The scribe turns his gaze back to the page, his eyes tracking the rows of text he has already completed, checking the alignment and spacing with the satisfied eye of a true master. He picks up his small iron knife, its bone handle polished smooth by years of contact with his palm, and uses the blunt back of the blade to gently press down tiny fibers of the parchment that had lifted during the writing process. The sound of the metal smooth surface sliding across the calfskin is a low, satisfying murmur, a sound that speaks of perfectionism carried out without an ounce of stress or haste. Everything in this space is done with an understanding that greatness takes time, and that the true value of a creation lies in the love and presence poured into every single step of its making. This philosophy seeps into your own consciousness, relaxing the tight muscles around your eyes and causing your shoulders to drop even further into a state of total heavy surrender. The scribe sets the small knife down on the heavy oak desk, its metallic click blending perfectly into the rhythmic lullaby of the scriptorium, and prepares to return to the beautiful flow of his calligraphy. He dips the quill into the dark glass inkwell, listening to the familiar, comforting clink of the rim, and then watches the dark liquid cling to the hollow shaft of the feather with an absolute, serene focus. As the tip touches the parchment once more, the gentle whisper of the quill resumes its steady, hypnotic melody, filling the cool air with a sense of continuous, comforting movement that gently pulls you closer to the shores of deep, restorative sleep. The deep stillness of the monastery scriptorium feels like a heavy, comforting velvet blanket that has settled over the entire world, isolating this small room of stone from the restless passage of centuries. The single thick beeswax candle has melted down further, its golden pool of wax widening and glowing like a small warm sun on the surface of the heavy oak desk. The scribe sits completely unmoved by the late hour, his concentration so pure and absolute that it creates a magnetic field of calm that fills every corner of the room, dissolving all thoughts of tomorrow or yesterday. He reaches out his hand to a small, shallow ceramic dish that contains a pale, opaque liquid, gum arabic, harvested from the sap of ancient acacia trees and mixed with distilled water to act as a binding agent for his pigments. He takes a small, flat wooden spatula and gently stirs the liquid, creating a soft, rhythmic swirling sound that resembles the gentle lapping of small waves against a wooden dock in a quiet harbour. The movement is incredibly hypnotic to watch, a slow and predictable circle that draws your awareness away from the chaotic pace of modern life and anchors it firmly in the beautiful simplicity of this ancient room. He lifts a tiny drop of the gum arabic on the tip of the spatula and adds it to his mound of malachite green pigment, blending the two substances together with a tiny smooth glass muller until the color transforms into a rich, lustrous paint that resembles the deepest moss of a hidden mountain valley. The scent of the fresh mixture joins the rich air of the scriptorium, bringing an earthy, clean aroma that cuts through the sweet richness of the burning wax and the sharp metallic tang of the iron gall ink, providing a deeply grounding sensory experience that calms the nervous system. The scribe sets the glass muller down on a piece of soft wool cloth with a muffled, comforting thud, then selects a medium brush with a long, elegant cedar handle and fine tapered bristles. He dips the brush into the green paint, rolling it gently against the side of the ceramic dish to form a perfect, sharp point that will allow him to fill the delicate leaf patterns branching out from the large golden initial letter on the parchment. His hand moves toward the page with absolute certainty, his fingers completely relaxed yet perfectly steady, guided by an internal peace that has been cultivated through decades of quiet devotion to this sacred art. As the brush touches the cream-colored calfskin, The vibrant green color flows smoothly into the pre-drawn outlines, bringing the intricate winding vine to life with a rich organic energy that contrasts beautifully against the bright, burnished gold. The process is painfully slow, requiring the scribe to paint each individual leaf with a single careful stroke of his brush, breathing out in a long, silent stream of air as he executes the movement. You find yourself watching this tiny world unfold beneath his hand, your own breathing naturally aligning with his unhurried rhythm, feeling a deep wave of physical relaxation spread through your limbs and make your body feel pleasantly heavy and warm. The absolute silence of the monastery folds over the room once more, a quiet so profound that you can almost hear the soft, microscopic expanding of the parchment fibers as they absorb the wet pigment and bind it into their ancient structure. Outside, the night sky over Thessaloniki remains clear and filled with stars, a vast, silent witness to the quiet work taking place within these stone walls where knowledge is preserved for generations yet unborn. The scribe finishes painting a cluster of small green leaves and pauses, holding the brush aloft for a moment to admire the balance of the colors and the harmony of the composition, his face bathed in the soft, flickering glow of the candle. Every single stroke he makes is infused with a deep sense of reverence, an understanding that he is creating something that will outlive his own mortal life by hundreds of years, and this perspective removes all sense of urgency or rush from his soul. He rinses the brush in a small cup of clear spring water, the liquid swirling into a beautiful misty green cloud that catches the golden light before settling into a peaceful uniform hue. He sets the brush down on the wooden tray, allowing the rich green paint to dry completely in the cool, steady air of the scriptorium, while he sits in perfect, restful contemplation. Sleepy History with Arthur combines the power of AI to reimagine fictional historical tales, bringing peace, relaxation, and positive emotional values to our listeners. The hours of the deep night pass over the Byzantine monastery like a quiet shadow, leaving the scriptorium untouched by the world outside, completely secure within its ancient stone embrace. The lone scribe continues his patient vigil at the heavy oak desk, his form bathed in the steady golden glow of the thick beeswax candle that has now burned down halfway, creating a landscape of beautifully sculpted wax stalactites along its side. The air remains wonderfully cool and still, rich with the comforting grounding sense of iron gall ink, natural parchment, and the sweet honeyed aroma of the burning candle, creating an atmosphere that is deeply restorative for a tired mind. As you sit here in this quiet oasis of safety, watching the beautiful dance of light and shadow across the stone walls, you can feel your thoughts slowing down, drifting closer and closer to a state of profound, peaceful rest. If this gentle journey through time is helping you find comfort and ease your restless mind, please take a brief moment to support us by liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and clicking the notification bell so you never miss a night of relaxation. We love hearing from our community, so please leave a comment below sharing your favorite historical settings or any peaceful stories you would like us to explore next, as your engagement helps us bring more of these soothing historical tales to listeners all around the world. The scribe reaches out with slow, deliberate fingers and takes a small piece of fine pumice stone from the edge of his desk, using it to gently polish a tiny area of the parchment margin where he plans to add a delicate border of fine silver script. The sound of the pumice sliding against the thick calfskin is a soft, rhythmic hiss, a dry and soothing tone that blends seamlessly into the quiet background of the room, like the sound of a distant river flowing over smooth river rocks. He wipes away the fine white dust with a soft brush made of badger hair, his movements so incredibly gentle and tender that it feels as though he is tending to something infinitely fragile and precious, completely free of any rush or impatience. He then reaches for a small dark glass vial containing fluid silver ink, created by grinding pure silver leaf with white honey and water until it forms a metallic liquid that flows smoothly from the tip of his quill. He shakes the vial gently, the tiny glass bead inside making a soft, crystalline clicking sound that breaks the absolute silence of the scriptorium, only to emphasize just how deep and comforting that silence truly is. He unplugs the tiny cork stopper releasing a faint, sweet scent of honey that enhances the rich olfactory tapestry of the room, and dips his newly trimmed goose quill into the shimmering silver ink with absolute precision. As he brings the quill to the parchment, the soft scratching sound returns, a delicate whisper that echoes the steady, peaceful beat of his heart as he shapes each tiny letter with flawless traditional mastery. The silver ink goes onto the page with a matte, dark grey colour, but as it dries in the cool, steady air of the chamber, it will transform into a bright, metallic line that catches the candlelight with a subtle, moon-like brilliance. The scribe breathes out in a long, slow stream of air, his chest rising and falling in perfect harmony with the movement of his hand, a physical rhythm that invites you to adjust your own breathing to match his unhurried pace. In this sacred space of creation, there are no expectations, no deadlines, and no pressures. There is only the beautiful, quiet, present moment, expanding outward into an infinity of calm where your mind can finally find a true sanctuary of rest. The silver ink begins to settle into the thick, organic fibers of the calfskin parchment, changing slowly under the steady gaze of the scribe from a wet, dark grey sheen into a shimmering line of liquid moonlight. The scriptorium remains wrapped in an absolute velvet stillness, an impenetrable sanctuary of stone where the chaotic noises of the outer world are entirely dissolved and forgotten. The single beeswax candle continues its slow, faithful consumption, casting a pool of warm, amber light across the weathered oak desk, while leaving the high corners of the vaulted ceiling draped in soft, protective shadows. The scribe sits perfectly centered, a figure of profound patience and inner peace, his whole physical being aligned with the rhythmic creation unfolding beneath his steady fingers. He sets the silver-inked quill down into its carved wooden groove with a soft, hollow click that resonates gently through the quiet room, allowing the delicate border text a few peaceful moments to dry in the cool, stable air. He reaches for a small, shallow dish made of unglazed clay, which contains a collection of dried cloves and small pieces of aromatic resin gathered from the pine forests surrounding Thessaloniki. He drops a single, small crystal of frankincense into the tiny metal dish that sits directly above the candle flame, a traditional practice meant to keep the air of the scriptorium fresh and clear during the long hours of the midnight vigil. Within moments, a thin, elegant spiral of translucent smoke rises into the golden light, twisting and curling like a living ribbon before dispersing into the cool atmosphere of the stone chamber. The air becomes infused with a deep, resinous warmth, a sweet, woody fragrance that blends beautifully with the grounding scent of iron gall ink and the rich, clean aroma of the natural calfskin parchment. This ancient scent immediately triggers a deeper wave of relaxation within your mind, signaling to your nervous system that you are in a place of complete security, far removed from the modern anxieties of haste and productivity. The scribe closes his eyes for a short, meditative interval, resting his vision by focusing inward, his breathing deep and abdominal, pushing his chest out in a slow, predictable rhythm that mirrors the calm expanse of the sleeping sea below. You find your own eyelids growing heavier as you track the slow rise and fall of his shoulders, your mind completely surrendering to the soothing, unhurried cadence of this monastic sanctuary. After a minute of perfect stillness, the scribe opens his eyes, his gaze clear and refreshed, and turns his attention back to the grand manuscript that has occupied his life for many long months. He picks up his small bone folder, checking the crispness of the page fold near the binding edge, drawing the smooth, ivory-colored tool down the margin with a soft, satisfying hiss that breaks the silence with an acoustic texture of pure comfort. Every tool he touches, every material he handles has been sourced directly from the earth and shaped by human hands, establishing a profound connection to reality that grounds your awareness and clears away the abstract static of modern thought. He reaches for his small iron knife once more, using its flat, cool blade to gently press down a tiny corner of the gold leaf that requires absolute flatness to catch the flickering candle flame with maximum brilliance. The gold responds instantly to his gentle touch, reflecting a warm, pulsing rhythm of metallic light against the dark, ancient stone blocks of the scriptorium wall, a mesmerizing visual melody that helps to lull your remaining thoughts into a state of deep, restorative quietude. The subtle resinous aroma of frankincense and the sweet smell of hot honeyed wax continue to drift through the cool, dark spaces of the scriptorium, creating an atmospheric blanket that feels utterly timeless. The scribe lifts his hand with an elegance born of a lifetime of practice, his fingers wrapping around a slightly broader goose quill, specially prepared for writing the larger headings that organize the sacred text. He dips the tip into a small porcelain container of deep cinnabar vermilion ink, a rich, fiery red that catches the candlelight with a vibrant, startling warmth against the cream-colored parchment surface. The crystalline click of the quill touching the ceramic edge is a sharp, clean sound that signals a shift in his work, a moment of transition from the small, meticulous lines of the body text to the grand, expressive flourishes of the structural titles. As he places the nib onto the calfskin, the soft, scratching whisper returns, but this time it has a deeper, rounder acoustic tone, reflecting the wider angle of the cut feather as it leaves a trail of bold, magnificent color upon the page. Each letter he shapes flows smoothly from his fingers, a flawless dance of curve and line that honors the ancient traditions of Thessaloniki's monastic schools, where beauty and precision are viewed as the highest forms of spiritual devotion. The steady, predictable movement of his hand behaves like a pendulum, rocking your mind into a deeper state of emotional safety, helping you release the lingering tension of the modern day and sink into the profound stillness of the Byzantine night. Outside, a gentle rustle of leaves from the olive trees in the courtyard whispers through the stone opening, a soft, natural murmur that blends perfectly with the rhythmic scratching of the quill to create a natural lullaby for your thoughts. The thick stone walls of the scriptorium stand like silent sentinels, absorbing the cool midnight moisture from the sea breeze and maintaining a perfect enclosed environment where nothing can rush, nothing can disturb, and nothing can fracture the absolute serenity of the present moment. You watch as a single drop of vermilion ink catches a small pocket of air, drying down from a liquid mirror into a rich, velvety crimson finish that will retain its brilliant hue for centuries to come, long after the candle has burned out and the dawn has broken over the hills. The scribe continues his work without a single misstep, his breathing deep and steady, inviting you to let your heavy eyelids close completely, secure in the knowledge that this sanctuary of rest will remain open and welcoming, guiding you gently into a state of deep, restorative, and peaceful slumber. The vibrant vermilion ink dries slowly in the cool air of the scriptorium, settling into the ancient calfskin parchment with a rich, matte finish that feels entirely permanent and secure. The scribe watches the transformation of the liquid color with a peaceful, knowing gaze, his hands resting lightly on the edge of the heavy oak desk as he allows the page a few minutes of uninterrupted stillness. The single beeswax candle has burned down further, its golden pool of liquid wax gently shifting with the subtle movements of the air, casting long, elegant shadows that dance lazily across the smooth stone walls of the chamber. This room is a perfect cocoon, a sanctuary built from heavy, time-tested blocks of granite and limestone that have stood against the wind and the rain for generations, keeping the internal space safe, quiet, and wonderfully calm. The metallic tang of the iron gall ink combines with the rich, resinous scent of the frankincense smoke that still hovers in the upper corners of the vaulted ceiling, creating an olfactory environment that feels deeply grounding and comforting to your senses. You can feel a heavy, pleasant warmth spreading through your body, starting from the tips of your toes and rising slowly through your legs and torso, melting away any tiny pockets of physical tension that you might have been holding onto from the day. The scribe reaches out with a slow, deliberate motion and picks up his small iron knife, using the smooth bone handle to gently tap against the side of his desk, a clear, hollow sound that marks the completion of the structural titles and signals a return to the fine body script. He takes a fresh piece of soft wool cloth and carefully wipes the tip of his broad quill, removing every trace of the red vermilion ink before it can dry and harden inside the hollow channel of the goose feather. The soft, rustling sound of the wool against the feather is incredibly delicate, a whisper of pure texture that reminds your mind of soft blankets, warm beds, and the comforting security of a safe home. He places the clean, broad quill back into its small wooden groove and selects his primary fine-tipped quill, the familiar, faithful instrument that has carried him through thousands of lines of beautiful, intricate Byzantine minuscules. He checks the tip against his thumbnail, feeling the flexibility of the cut horn, then dips it into the dark glass inkwell with that same crystalline click that has become the soothing rhythm of this beautiful evening. As the quill touches the parchment once more, the gentle, hypnotic scratching sound resumes its steady cadence, filling the room with a sense of quiet, purposeful dedication that draws your awareness deeper into a state of serene focus. There is no urgency here, no pressure to finish a specific number of pages before the night ends, only a pure, undivided commitment to the single letter being formed in the present moment. This philosophy of slowness and patience begins to wash over your own mind, dissolving the frantic, hurried thoughts of the modern world and replacing them with a vast, open ocean of stillness that welcomes you to relax, let go, and drift away into a deep, restorative sleep. The deep, velvety silence of the Byzantine night continues to hold the monastery scriptorium in a warm, protective embrace, completely shielding this sacred space from the restless currents of time. The lone scribe sits in absolute serenity at his heavy oak desk, his body completely relaxed yet focused, completely aligned with the gentle rhythmic movements of his craft. The thick beeswax candle burns with a steady amber clarity, casting long, peaceful shadows across the ancient stone walls and illuminating the delicate cream-colored parchment with a soft, comforting glow. This small room is a perfect sanctuary of safety, where the air is rich with the grounding scents of iron gall ink, clean dried calfskin, and the sweet, comforting fragrance of melting wax. As you sit here in the quiet dark, letting the peaceful atmosphere wash over your tired mind, you can feel your thoughts slowing down, drifting closer and closer to a state of profound, restorative rest. If you enjoy these peaceful journeys through history and want to support our mission of bringing deep relaxation and comfort to listeners everywhere, please take a quick moment to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell to stay connected with us. Sharing your thoughts in the comments section below about what historical settings bring you the greatest sense of peace helps our community grow and inspires us to create even more of these soothing historical escapes for your mind. The scribe gently lifts his fine quill from the page, his movements entirely unhurried, and places it into its carved wooden groove with a soft click that blends seamlessly into the quiet room. He reaches for a small, shallow porcelain bowl containing a pure white pigment made from ground oyster shells and clean mountain spring water, a traditional ink used by Byzantine illuminators to add delicate highlights to the margins and initials. He takes a tiny brush with fine tapered bristles and stirs the white liquid with a slow, circular motion, creating a soft, rhythmic whispering sound that sounds like the gentle rustle of silk sheets or the sound of distant wind through long grass. The visual movement of the white paint swirling in the bowl is deeply hypnotic, drawing your awareness away from any lingering modern anxieties and locking your mind into the beautiful, slow reality of this ancient scriptorium. He lifts a small amount of the white pigment on the tip of the brush and approaches the large golden initial letter, his hand completely steady, waiting for the perfect quiet space between his heartbeats to touch the page. When the brush finally meets the burnished gold leaf, there is no sound at all, only a profound visual magic as a fine, crisp line of pure white flows onto the gleaming metal, adding depth, dimension, and a brilliant sense of light to the intricate design. The contrast between the bright white, the deep blue, the fiery vermilion, and the shining gold is breathtakingly beautiful, a visual symphony that honors the ancient traditions of preservation and care. The scribe works with an incredible patient focus, adding tiny dots and lines of white highlight to each leaf and vine of the ornamental border, breathing out in a long, slow stream of air as he executes every single movement. This absolute dedication to the present moment acts as a powerful anchor for your own thoughts, inviting your body to fully relax and surrender to the overwhelming peace of this monastic sanctuary as the night continues its slow, majestic journey toward the dawn. The delicate white highlights dry quickly upon the burnished gold leaf, transforming the flat metallic surface into a three-dimensional masterpiece of light and shadow that looks as though it possesses its own internal radiance. The scriptorium remains wrapped in an absolute impenetrable quiet, a silence so deep and pure that the world outside the monastery walls seems to have vanished entirely into the dark midnight air. The single beeswax candle continues its slow, faithful vigil, its warm golden flame burning steadily without a single flicker, illuminating the heavy oak desk while leaving the ancient stone corners of the room enveloped in a soft, protective blanket of darkness. The scribe sits completely still, a timeless figure of patience and serenity, his posture relaxed yet grounded, completely immersed in the peaceful rhythm of his sacred art. He sets the fine highlighting brush down upon a piece of soft wool cloth with a muffled, comforting sound, allowing his hands to rest flat against the cool surface of the oak wood for a moment of quiet contemplation. The metallic scent of the iron gall ink combines with the rich, earthy fragrance of the natural parchment and the faint, sweet smell of the melting honeyed wax, creating an olfactory environment that feels deeply comforting, safe, and grounding to your senses. You can feel a wave of physical heaviness spreading through your body, starting from the tips of your fingers and moving slowly through your arms and shoulders, melting away the very last traces of modern tension and haste. The scribe reaches out with a slow, deliberate motion and takes a small piece of dark, polished horn from the edge of his desk, using it to gently smooth down the edges of the parchment sheet where the heavy river stones hold it flat. The sound of the horn sliding over the thick calfskin is a low, satisfying murmur, a sound of pure texture that speaks of care, order, and meticulous craftsmanship carried out without an ounce of stress or hurry. Everything in this space is done with an understanding that beauty cannot be rushed, and that the true value of knowledge lies in the love and presence poured into every single page of its preservation. This philosophy of slowness sweeps over your own mind, relaxing the tired muscles around your eyes and causing your thoughts to flow like a slow, deep river through a landscape of total tranquility. The scribe picks up his primary fine-tipped goose quill once more, checking the angle of the nib against his thumb before dipping it into the dark glass inkwell with that familiar, comforting crystalline click. As the quill touches the parchment once more, the gentle, hypnotic scratching sound resumes its steady cadence, filling the cool air of the room with a rhythmic whisper that sounds like a continuous lullaby for your mind. You find yourself drifting deeper and deeper into a state of serene relaxation, tracking the slow, predictable movement of his hand as it shapes each perfect Byzantine letter line by line, page by page, completely safe within the protective cocoon of the stone scriptorium as the night continues its slow and majestic journey. The rhythmic scratch of the fine-tipped goose quill continues to weave a beautiful tapestry of sound into the cool, dark air of the scriptorium, creating a steady and comforting cadence that seems to slow down the beating of your heart. Line by line, the dark iron gall ink fills the faint guidelines drawn across the cream-colored calfskin parchment, creating rows of perfect, elegant Byzantine minuscules that look like tiny uniform rows of waves upon a calm, dark sea. The scribe moves his hand with absolute, unhurried precision, his entire body relaxed and unified with the movement of the pen, completely free from the hurried pressures that dominate the world outside these sacred monastery walls. The single thick beeswax candle has burned down a bit more, its golden flame standing perfectly straight and casting a warm amber pool of light over the heavy oak desk, while leaving the ancient stone walls of the chamber draped in soft, velvety shadows. This room is a fortress of absolute safety, a sanctuary carved from the very bedrock of the hillside overlooking Thessaloniki, built to withstand the passage of centuries and protect the precious knowledge contained within its walls. The metallic scent of the ink merges with the sweet, clean aroma of the melting honeyed wax, creating an olfactory atmosphere that is deeply grounding, familiar, and comforting, signaling to your tired mind that it is completely safe to let go of all responsibilities and simply exist in the present moment. You can feel a profound, pleasant heaviness settling into your limbs, a deep wave of relaxation that relaxes every muscle in your body and makes your eyelids feel incredibly heavy, as if they are being gently pressed down by a warm, soft hand. The scribe pauses at the end of a long paragraph, lifting the quill with a slow, graceful motion and resting it in its carved wooden groove with a soft, hollow click, that sounds like a distant, reassuring note in the quiet night. He reaches for a small, smooth piece of green jasper stone used as a weight to keep his place on the original text he is copying, moving it down the page with a gentle sliding motion that produces a low, satisfying murmur against the ancient parchment. Every action he performs is carried out with the exact same level of reverence and care, a beautiful demonstration of a way of living that prioritizes depth, patience, and presence over speed and completion. This timeless philosophy seeps into your own consciousness, clearing away the last remnants of mental chatter and replacing them with a vast open space of stillness that welcomes you to rest your body and mind completely. The scribe dips his quill into the dark glass inkwell once more, the crystalline clink of the glass echoing softly through the quiet room, and as the dark liquid clings to the hollow feather, he returns his hand to the waiting page, ready to continue his beautiful, meditative journey through the silent hours of the night. The dark iron gall ink flows steadily from the tip of the goose feather, transforming into beautiful rows of ancient script that will stand the test of time for 1,000 years. The scriptorium remains locked in an absolute, deep silence, a quiet so profound that it feels like a living presence, wrapping the entire room in a protective layer of pure peace and safety. The single beeswax candle continues its slow and faithful consumption, casting its warm amber light across the weathered oak desk, illuminating the textured calfskin parchment, while leaving the high corners of the stone room hidden in soft velvety darkness. The scribe sits perfectly centered upon his sturdy wooden bench, his movements so calm and measured that they seem to follow the deep, slow breathing of the earth itself. He lifts the quill from the page with an elegant, practiced motion and places it into its carved wooden groove with a soft, hollow click that resonates gently through the quiet chamber before dissolving back into the silence. He reaches over to a small earthen jar filled with cool water from the monastery well, dipping a soft linen cloth into the liquid and using it to gently wipe the smooth surface of his small iron knife to ensure it remains perfectly clean and sharp. The soft, rustling sound of the linen sliding across the cool metal is a delicate whisper of pure texture, a comforting note that adds another layer of tranquility to the quiet, auditory landscape of the room. Every tool in this space is treated with immense respect, handled with a tenderness that reflects the scribe's deep gratitude for the materials that allow him to preserve human knowledge across generations. This sense of reverence and appreciation fills the entire room, creating an emotional sanctuary where your mind can let go of all modern worries and find a deep, grounding sense of stability and rest. You can feel your body growing increasingly heavy, sinking deeper into a state of total restful relaxation, as you watch the scribe carefully fold the damp cloth and set it back on the cedar shelf beside his desk. He turns his attention back to the parchment, smoothing his hand over the clean margin with a gentle sliding motion that produces a low, satisfying murmur against the thick calfskin surface. The burnished gold leaf on the ornamental capital letter catches the steady glow of the candle flame, reflecting a warm, mesmerizing pattern of golden light across the ancient stone walls, a visual rhythm that behaves like a gentle lullaby for your thoughts. There is no past to regret and no future to worry about in this sacred space. There is only the beautiful, quiet present moment expanding outward into an ocean of calm that invites you to close your eyes, relax your body completely, and drift into a deep, restorative sleep. The deep tranquility of the scriptorium remains unbroken as the night carries on its silent march toward the distant morning, completely insulated from the frantic currents of the world outside. The lone scribe continues his meticulous work at the heavy oak desk, his body completely aligned with the rhythmic, peaceful cadence of his calligraphy, moving with a grace that has been perfected over years of quiet devotion within these monastery walls. The single thick beeswax candle has burned down further, leaving a beautiful pattern of hardened golden wax along its base, while its flame burns with a steady, magnificent clarity that throws a warm amber glow over the entire workspace. The air inside this ancient stone chamber remains perfectly cool and comforting, filled with the rich grounding aromas of the dark iron gall ink, the natural dried calfskin parchment, and the sweet, soothing scent of the melting wax. This space is a cocoon of absolute safety and serene focus, an old stone fortress where the only requirement is to exist in the present moment, completely free from the heavy demands and urgent pressures of modern life. You can feel this profound stillness expanding within your own mind, a soft, heavy wave of relaxation that gently smooths away any lingering thoughts of worry or tension and replaces them with a vast open space of pure rest. The scribe gently lifts his fine goose quill from the parchment, his movements entirely calm and deliberate, and places it into its carved wooden rest with a soft click that echoes pleasantly through the quiet room before merging back into the deep silence. He reaches for a small piece of soft, natural sheepskin cloth from a small wooden box on his shelf, using it to gently dust the margins of the manuscript and clear away any tiny fibers that might have settled during his hours of concentrated writing. The sound of the sheepskin sliding across the textured calfskin is a low, satisfying murmur, a soft whisper of pure materials that speaks of ultimate care, order, and deep respect for the preservation of human thought. He folds the soft cloth with a slow, meditative precision and returns it to its proper place, his absolute consistency providing a profound sense of emotional stability and reassurance that everything is exactly as it should be. He turns his gaze back to the large sheet of parchment, looking at the rows of perfect Byzantine minuscules that now cover the page, each character a beautiful monument to human patience and deliberate craftsmanship. The burnished gold leaf on the ornate initial letter catches a subtle movement of the candle flame, reflecting a warm, mesmerizing pulse of golden light across the ancient, smooth stone blocks of the scriptorium walls, a visual melody that lulls your tired mind even deeper into a state of total heavy surrender. There are no clocks ticking in this sacred room, no alarms waiting to disrupt the silence, and no tasks that must be finished in a hurry. There is only this single beautiful moment of absolute peace that invites you to close your heavy eyelids, relax your shoulders completely, and surrender to a deep restorative sleep. The cool midnight air continues to rest gently within the thick stone walls of the scriptorium, creating an unchanging environment where the spirit of ancient knowledge feels entirely safe and protected. The scribe sits unmoved on his sturdy, low wooden bench, his gaze resting peacefully upon the newly completed lines of deep black iron gall script that march with uniform perfection across the cream-colored parchment. The single beeswax candle remains the solitary source of light, a faithful guardian of the night that burns with a soft, comforting intensity, casting a wide pool of gold across the heavy oak desk while leaving the stone corners of the room in deep, velvety shadow. The metallic scent of the ink remains strong and anchoring, a clean, sharp smell that connects the mind directly to the earth, blending seamlessly with the sweet aroma of the honeyed wax and the dry organic fragrance of the calfskin. This sensory landscape acts as a profound anchor for your awareness, pulling your thoughts away from the scattered anxieties of the modern world and grounding them in the solid, tangible reality of this 1,000-year-old monastery room. You can feel a deep sense of security washing over you, an understanding that inside these thick stone walls which have stood against the wind and the sea for generations, nothing can harm you, nothing can rush you, and nothing can disturb your peace. The scribe reaches out his hand, his movements displaying the relaxed confidence of a master artisan, and picks up a small ivory ruler used to verify the absolute vertical alignment of his margins. He places the smooth, cool ivory against the left edge of the text, his fingers resting gently upon the parchment, and runs his eyes down the line with a quiet look of satisfaction and calm. The faint sound of the ivory sliding over the textured calfskin is a crisp, clean whisper, a momentary break in the silence that only serves to make the deep, surrounding quiet feel even more profound and comforting. Every object in this room has been crafted with deliberate purpose, carrying an energy of patience and slow dedication that immediately filters into your own consciousness, untying the tight knots of tension in your neck and shoulders. The scribe lifts the ivory ruler and places it carefully back onto the wooden tray, the soft wooden click blending into the ambient heartbeat of the scriptorium like a gentle pulse of ancient time. He takes a deep, slow breath, his chest rising and falling in an unhurried cadence that you find yourself naturally mirroring. allowing your own lungs to fill with the cool, clean air of the sanctuary before letting it go completely. He reaches for his fine-tipped goose quill once more, dipping the nib into the dark glass inkwell with that familiar, comforting crystalline click that signals a return to the beautiful flow of his calligraphy. As the quill touches the smooth surface of the parchment, the rhythmic scratching begins again, a delicate hypnotic melody that sounds like the soft rustle of dry leaves in a gentle breeze, lulling your mind into an even deeper state of restorative relaxation and total peace. The soft whisper of the quill moving along the parchment surface continues to act as the primary melody in the quiet symphony of the scriptorium, creating a steady, predictable rhythm that melts away the last remnants of mental static. The lone scribe remains completely absorbed in his work, his hand tracing the delicate curves of the traditional Byzantine letters with a level of focus that is deeply meditative and calm. The single thick beeswax candle has burned down further, leaving a small mountain of golden wax at its base, its steady flame illuminating the page with an incredibly warm amber light that feels completely natural and gentle on your tired eyes. Outside the small arched window, the dark waters of the Aegean Sea continue their slow, endless movement against the base of the cliffs far below the monastery, a distant, rhythmic murmur that blends perfectly with the soft scratch of the quill to create a timeless lullaby for your thoughts. Inside this sacred stone chamber, the temperature remains perfectly cool and stable, a protective bubble of absolute safety where the rushing passage of the outside world holds no power or influence. The metallic tang of the iron gall ink is rich and grounding, combining with the sweet scent of the melting wax to create an olfactory atmosphere that immediately triggers a deep sense of internal comfort, security, and rest. You can feel your body growing heavier with every passing moment, a deep wave of physical relaxation spreading through your arms, legs, and torso, making you feel entirely supported and safe within this ancient sanctuary. The scribe finishes a long column of text and gently lifts his quill from the surface of the calfskin parchment, placing it into its carved wooden groove with a soft, hollow click that resonates pleasantly through the quiet room before dissolving back into the silence. He reaches over to a small, dark ceramic jar containing a mixture of crushed walnut shells and water, a traditional brown ink used for drawing the fine decorative lines and scrollwork that frame the margins of the manuscript. He takes a very fine brush with a long, elegant handle made of dried reed, dipping the tip into the walnut ink with an unhurried, careful motion that reflects his deep reverence for every single stage of the creation process. He brings the fine brush to the top corner of the parchment page, his fingers completely relaxed yet perfectly steady, guided by an inner stillness that has been nurtured by decades of quiet life within these ancient monastery walls. As the brush touches the cream-colored surface, a beautiful, delicate line of warm brown ink flows onto the page, beginning to form an intricate pattern of leaves and vines that will frame the sacred text with an organic, natural beauty. The process is slow and requires absolute patience, forcing the scribe to hold his body completely steady as he guides the tiny brush through the complex twisting shapes of the border design. You find yourself completely captivated by the slow growth of the pattern under his hand, your mind letting go of all modern worries and sinking deeper into a state of serene, restorative quietude that prepares your entire being for a deep and peaceful slumber. The warm brown walnut ink dries into a beautiful earthy tone upon the surface of the cream calfskin parchment, creating a soft and natural frame that perfectly complements the dark lines of the main text. The scriptorium remains completely isolated from the outer world, wrapped in an absolute velvet silence that has settled deep into the ancient stones of the monastery over hundreds of years of quiet contemplation. The single beeswax candle continues its slow, steady burn on the edge of the heavy oak desk, its golden flame standing perfectly straight and casting long, calm shadows that stretch lazily across the smooth masonry walls of the high chamber. This small room is a perfect fortress of security, a sanctuary where the air is rich with the deeply grounding, comforting aromas of iron gall ink, fresh beeswax, and the clean, dry scent of the natural animal skins. As you sit in this timeless oasis of peace, letting the soft light and the ancient atmosphere wash over your tired mind, you can feel your thoughts slowing down to a gentle trickle, moving closer and closer to a state of complete, heavy relaxation. The scribe lifts his fine reed brush from the page, his movements slow and deliberate, and rests it upon a clean piece of soft white wool cloth to absorb any remaining moisture from the delicate bristles. The dry, soft rustle of the wool is incredibly soothing to listen to, a microscopic sound of pure comfort that reminds your mind of warm blankets, heavy quilts, and the absolute safety of a quiet, darkened room. He sets the brush down into its carved wooden groove with a faint, hollow click that sounds like a distant bell echoing through the quiet halls of the monastery before fading away into the profound stillness. He reaches for a small, smooth riverstone that has been polished by centuries of rushing mountain water, using it to gently rub down a small section of the parchment where he intends to begin a new paragraph on the next line. The sound of the smooth stone sliding over the textured calfskin is a low, satisfying murmur, a rhythmic hiss that behaves like a gentle lullaby for your thoughts, drawing your consciousness deeper into a state of serene and total surrender. Every single movement the scribe makes is carried out with an absolute lack of haste, an understanding that true quality and timeless beauty require a complete immersion in the present moment, free from the frantic demands of modern time. This ancient philosophy of slowness seeps into your own body, relaxing the muscles in your face, releasing the tension in your jaw, and causing your shoulders to drop completely into a state of total heavy rest. The scribe picks up his primary fine-tipped goose quill once more, checking the tip against his thumbnail before dipping it into the dark glass inkwell with that familiar, comforting crystalline click that has become the steady heartbeat of this beautiful evening. As the quill touches the waiting page, the gentle, hypnotic scratching sound resumes its steady cadence, filling the cool air of the room with a rhythmic whisper that promises to guide your mind safely into a deep, restorative, and peaceful sleep. The gentle scratching of the fine goose quill once again fills the quiet space of the stone scriptorium, a steady and comforting murmur that echoes the eternal rhythm of the dark sea crashing against the cliffs far below. The lone scribe continues his patient work under the protective watch of the high stone vault, his hand completely steady as it guides the dark iron gall ink across the smooth surface of the cream-colored parchment sheet. The single thick beeswax candle has burned down further, creating a magnificent sculpture of melted amber along its side, while its bright, clean flame continues to throw a warm and loving glow over the entire wooden workspace. The air inside this ancient room remains wonderfully cool, crisp, and clean, enriched by the grounding familiar aromas of natural calfskin, fresh beeswax, and the deep organic scent of the freshly mixed writing inks. This space is a true fortress of absolute peace and emotional safety, an old monastic sanctuary built to withstand the chaotic passage of time and protect the human spirit from the heavy pressures and frantic demands of the outside world. You can feel this profound stillness expanding within your own chest, a soft, heavy blanket of relaxation that gently smooths away any remaining thoughts of stress or modern worry, leaving a vast open ocean of pure, restorative rest. The scribe slowly lifts his quill from the page at the end of a beautiful sentence, his movements entirely calm and unhurried, and places it into its small carved wooden groove with a faint click that blends perfectly into the silence of the chamber. He reaches for a small, shallow ceramic bowl filled with fine, white marble dust, a traditional material used by Byzantine masters to dry the wet ink quickly without smudging the delicate lines of the calligraphy. He takes a small pinch of the clean white powder between his fingertips and holds his hand over the freshly written column of text, moving his fingers with a slow, gentle twisting motion to sprinkle the dust evenly across the parchment page. The sight of the tiny white particles falling through the golden candlelight looks like a miniature silent snowfall, a beautiful and hypnotic image that draws your awareness away from all analytical thoughts and locks your mind into the absolute simplicity of the present moment. The soft rustle of his skin against the dry marble dust produces a tiny, whispering sound of pure comfort, a texture that speaks of meticulous care, absolute cleanliness, and deep devotion to the preservation of sacred knowledge. He waits for a few peaceful moments, breathing deeply and rhythmically as the dry dust completely absorbs the remaining moisture from the deep black script, his chest rising and falling in an unhurried cadence that invites you to adjust your own breathing to match his calm pace. He then takes a large, remarkably soft feather from a wild mountain eagle, using it to gently sweep the white dust off the parchment and into a small wooden tray at the side of his heavy oak desk. The sound of the large feather sliding across the textured surface of the calfskin is a low, satisfying murmur, a soft, sweeping hiss that behaves like a gentle wave washing over a smooth sand beach, carrying away the last remnants of your mental tension and leaving your body feeling beautifully heavy and warm. The scribe inspects the page with a look of quiet satisfaction, seeing how the dark iron gall ink has dried into a sharp, permanent and perfectly matte finish that will endure for centuries to come, safe within the dark archives of the monastery. He places the eagle feather back on its dedicated cedar shelf and reaches for his fine-tipped quill once more, dipping it into the dark glass inkwell with that familiar, comforting, crystalline click that has become the steady heartbeat of this peaceful night. As the quill touches the clean surface of the next line, the rhythmic scratching begins again, a delicate, hypnotic melody that sounds like a continuous lullaby for your mind, guiding you deeper and deeper into a state of total relaxation, emotional security, and profound restorative sleep. The dark iron gall ink continues to flow with a beautiful, unhurried consistency from the hollow channel of the goose quill, binding itself irrevocably to the fine organic matrix of the calfskin parchment. The scriptorium remains completely untouched by the late hour, holding its position as a silent, timeless island of pure peace, suspended within the vast dark ocean of the Byzantine night. The single thick beeswax candle has now melted down near its base, creating a large circular pool of liquid gold that reflects the steady flame like a miniature mirror on the surface of the heavy oak desk. The light is soft, warm, and remarkably stable, casting an amber aura over the scribe's work while allowing the massive stone arches above to recede into a protective, velvety darkness that feels incredibly safe and welcoming. The air inside this ancient chamber is cool, clear, and perfectly still, saturated with the deeply grounding, comforting aromas of iron gall ink, fresh beeswax, dried animal skin, and the faint lingering trace of sweet frankincense smoke. This rich combination of natural scents works to completely soothe your nervous system, providing a strong sensory anchor that gently pulls your mind away from the chaotic, hurried pace of modern existence and grounds it firmly in the present moment. You can feel a heavy, deeply satisfying wave of physical relaxation spreading through your body, melting away the very last resistance in your muscles and making your limbs feel wonderfully warm, heavy, and motionless. The scribe finishes a long, complex sequence of beautiful Greek ligatures and lifts his hand with absolute grace, pausing for a brief moment to admire the balance and flow of the script upon the page. He places the fine goose quill down into its carved wooden groove with a soft, clean click that breaks the silence of the room, only to emphasize just how deep and restorative that silence truly is. He reaches for a small, thin sheet of translucent horn, which he uses as a protective shield to place over the completed sections of the manuscript, preventing his hand from inadvertently touching or smudging the dry but delicate ink as he moves lower on the page. The sound of the smooth horn sliding across the textured calfskin is a low, faint whisper, a dry and comforting tone that resembles the gentle rustle of dry autumn leaves drifting across a smooth stone walkway in a quiet courtyard. He aligns the protective sheet with absolute precision, his fingers moving with a deliberate slowness that demonstrates his complete freedom from the pressures of time, deadlines, or external demands. In this sacred space of preservation, there is no need to hurry, no expectation of speed, and no desire for rapid completion. There is only a pure, undivided devotion to the single line of text being brought into existence in the present moment. This ancient philosophy of patience washes over your consciousness, clearing away any remaining mental static and replacing it with a vast, open landscape of absolute tranquility that welcomes you to completely let go. The scribe takes a deep, slow breath, his chest rising and falling in a rhythmic, predictable manner that creates a soothing physical cadence within the quiet scriptorium, inviting your own breathing to align with his calm, steady pace. He reaches out and selects a small, sharp piece of lead ore, a traditional tool used by monastic scribes to lightly score the margins of the page to ensure the text blocks remain perfectly square and visually balanced. He draws the cool piece of lead along the edge of his ivory ruler with a steady, unhurried pressure, producing a soft, scraping murmur that is incredibly satisfying to listen to, a sound of pure structure, order, and meticulous craftsmanship. The thin, silver-grey line left behind on the cream parchment is barely visible, a subtle guide meant only for the eyes of the master creator as he continues his beautiful, dedicated journey through the dark hours of the night. He replaces the lead ore on the wooden tray, the soft thud blending seamlessly into the ambient quiet of the room, and takes up his primary fine quill once more, checking the tip against his thumbnail with a quiet look of serene confidence. He dips the nib into the dark glass inkwell, the crystalline clink echoing softly through the stone room, and as the dark fluid clings to the feather, he returns his hand to the page, ready to weave more beautiful lines of ancient wisdom into the silent fabric of the evening, guiding your mind into a deep, restorative sleep. The newly drawn lead lines provide an invisible yet reassuring framework for the scribe's next movements, ensuring that the ancient knowledge preserved on this dark Byzantine night will look structurally perfect for generations to come. The scriptorium remains absolute in its stillness, a heavy stone sanctuary high above the world where the ticking of modern clocks has no meaning and the frantic rushing of secular life is entirely dissolved into the deep, dark air. The single thick beeswax candle has burned down even further now, its flame still remarkably strong, bright and calm, casting an amber pool of light over the heavy oak desk while leaving the high vaulted ceiling draped in soft, protective shadows that feel incredibly welcoming. The air inside this ancient stone room remains wonderfully cool, clean, and crisp, enriched by the deeply grounding familiar aromas of iron gall ink, fresh beeswax, and the dry, organic scent of the calfskin parchment. This sensory landscape acts as a profound anchor for your awareness, pulling your thoughts away from the scattered anxieties of the modern world and grounding them firmly in the solid, tangible reality of this 1,000-year-old monastery room. You can feel a deep sense of security washing over you, an understanding that inside these thick stone walls which have stood against the wind and the sea for generations, nothing can harm you, nothing can rush you, and nothing can disturb your absolute peace. The scribe reaches out with a slow, deliberate movement and picks up his small bone folder, using its smooth, ivory-like surface to gently press down a tiny ripple near the center fold of the large parchment sheet. The sound of the bone tool sliding against the thick calfskin is a soft, rhythmic hiss, a dry and soothing tone that blends seamlessly into the quiet background of the room, like the sound of a distant river flowing over smooth river rocks. He carries out this adjustment with an incredible patient focus, his movements so gentle and tender that it feels as though he is tending to something infinitely fragile and precious, completely free of any rush or impatience. He then reaches for his small glass vial containing fluid gold ink, created by grinding pure gold leaf with white honey and water until it forms a metallic liquid that flows smoothly from the tip of his quill. He shakes the vial gently, the tiny glass bead inside making a soft, crystalline clicking sound that breaks the absolute silence of the scriptorium, only to emphasize just how deep and comforting that silence truly is. He unplugs the tiny cork stopper, releasing a faint, sweet scent of honey that enhances the rich olfactory tapestry of the room, and dips his newly trimmed goose quill into the shimmering gold ink with absolute precision. As he brings the quill to the parchment, the soft scratching sound returns, a delicate whisper that echoes the steady, peaceful beat of his heart as he shapes each tiny ornamental star with flawless traditional mastery. The gold ink goes onto the page with a matte, dark yellow color, but as it dries in the cool, steady air of the chamber, it will transform into a bright, metallic line that catches the candlelight with a subtle, sun-like brilliance. The scribe breathes out in a long, slow stream of air, his chest rising and falling in perfect harmony with the movement of his hand. a physical rhythm that invites you to adjust your own breathing to match his unhurried pace. In this sacred space of creation, there are no expectations, no deadlines, and no pressures. There is only the beautiful, quiet, present moment, expanding outward into an infinity of calm where your mind can finally find a true sanctuary of rest. The gold leaf on the ornate capital letter catches a subtle movement of the candle flame, reflecting a warm, mesmerizing pattern of golden light across the ancient stone walls, a visual rhythm that behaves like a gentle lullaby for your thoughts. There is no past to regret and no future to worry about in this sacred space. There is only the beautiful, quiet, present moment, expanding outward into an ocean of calm that invites you to close your eyes, relax your body completely, and drift into a deep, restorative sleep. The shimmering gold stars dry slowly under the quiet vigilance of the scribe, their liquid yellow sheen tightening into sharp, reflective points of metallic light that mirror the brilliant constellations shining over the Aegean Sea. The scriptorium remains locked within an absolute crystalline stillness, a heavy sanctuary of thick granite and limestone blocks that completely absorbs the sighs of the night and insulates this sacred work from the passage of centuries. The solitary beeswax candle has burned down close to its heavy iron base, yet its flame remains tall, bright, and remarkably steady, casting a deep golden pool of illumination over the grain of the oak desk, while leaving the outer edges of the arched room wrapped in dense protective shadows. The rich, grounding scent of the freshly laid gold ink blends beautifully with the sharp metallic tang of the iron gall, the clean organic aroma of the calfskin parchment, and the lingering sweetness of the melting honeyed wax, creating an olfactory atmosphere of pure safety and comfort. This distinct combination of natural scents works directly upon your awareness, gently dissolving the fragmented thoughts of the modern day and anchoring your consciousness in the profound, unchanging reality of this monastic haven. You can feel a deep, soothing heaviness spreading through your entire physical being, softening the muscles of your neck and allowing your shoulders to sink completely into a state of total, restful surrender. The scribe sets down his gold-inked quill into its carved wooden groove with a soft, hollow click that resonates gently through the quiet room, a clean acoustic note that signals a moment of peaceful transition in his evening vigil. He reaches for a small, smooth square of dark green porphyry stone, a traditional weight used to keep the heavy parchment pages from curling in the damp midnight air, and places it with absolute deliberation onto the lower margin of the manuscript. The sound of the polished stone meeting the textured surface of the calfskin is a low, muffled thud, a sound of pure substance and stability that reinforces the deep sense of order and care that governs every detail of this sacred space. Every action performed by the scribe is an exercise in profound patience, a conscious choice to inhabit the present moment completely, without any regard for speed, completion, or the passage of time. This timeless philosophy of slowness sweeps over your own mind like a calm, rising tide, washing away the urgent static of productivity and replacing it with a vast, open landscape of internal tranquility. The scribe takes his small iron knife and uses its flat, cool blade to gently test the dry surface of a primary text column, ensuring the iron gall has bound perfectly to the organic fibers before he flips the page to begin a fresh sheet. The faint, scraping hiss of the metal against the parchment is incredibly delicate, a whisper of pure texture that feels like a soft caress against your tired mind, lulling your thoughts into an even deeper state of serene relaxation. He completes his inspection with a quiet look of satisfaction, his breathing deep, abdominal, and perfectly steady, creating a rhythmic physical cadence that you find yourself naturally mirroring as you watch his hands move. He reaches out to the stack of unwritten calfskin sheets resting on a small cedar shelf beside his desk, lifting the top page with a slow, sweeping motion that produces a dry, rustling sound, like the wind moving through a field of ripe wheat. He places the clean parchment onto the inclined surface of his oak desk, aligning it carefully with the wooden pegs, and prepares to begin the long meditative process of ruling and writing once more. The candle flame reflects a warm, pulsing rhythm of golden light against the ancient dark stone blocks of the scriptorium wall, a mesmerizing visual melody that guides your heavy eyelids completely shut, allowing you to drift safely into a deep, restorative, and peaceful sleep. The dry, rustling whisper of the clean calfskin parchment settling onto the angled surface of the oak desk marks a beautiful new beginning in the quiet sanctuary of the scriptorium, a fresh, unblemished space waiting to receive the timeless wisdom of the ancient texts. The lone scribe sits completely centered on his low wooden bench, his posture open, relaxed, and entirely free from any sense of modern haste or physical tension as he prepares the new sheet for his evening labor. The solitary beeswax candle, now a small but brilliantly bright beacon near its iron holder, continues to cast a warm, comforting pool of amber light across the workspace, illuminating the subtle grain of the wood while leaving the high stone arches above draped in a soft, protective velvet darkness. The deep, grounding scent of the fresh, dry animal skin fills the immediate air, mixing seamlessly with the sharp, metallic tang of the nearby iron gall ink and the sweet, honeyed fragrance of the melting wax to create an olfactory atmosphere of absolute safety, order, and deep domestic tranquility. This rich tapestry of natural scents acts as a profound anchor for your awareness, gently pulling your mind away from the chaotic distractions of the modern day and locking your consciousness firmly into the slow, meditative reality of this 1,000-year-old monastic haven. You can feel a profound, pleasant heaviness spreading through your entire body, starting from the tips of your toes and rising slowly through your legs, torso, and shoulders, melting away the very last remnants of stress and allowing your muscles to surrender completely to the supportive spirit of the room. The scribe reaches out with a slow, deliberate movement and selects a long, slender piece of dried reed, traditionally used for marking the initial geometric coordinates that will guide his copper ruler across the empty page. He places the tip of the reed against the top corner of the parchment, his hand completely steady, and makes a tiny, almost invisible indentation into the surface with an unhurried precision that reflects a lifetime of dedicated craftsmanship. The faint, crisp click of the reed against the thick calfskin is a beautiful, isolated note in the silence of the room, a sound of pure structure and careful intent that emphasizes just how quiet and secure this stone chamber truly is. Every single tool in this space is handled with an immense amount of reverence and care, treated not merely as an instrument of work but as a sacred partner in the preservation of human thought across the boundaries of time. This sense of absolute dedication and slow, patient purpose washes over your own mind like a calm, rising tide, dissolving the urgent need for rapid progress and replacing it with a vast, open landscape of internal peace and total mental stillness. The scribe takes up his heavy copper ruler, aligning it perfectly with the tiny marks he has made, and prepares to draw the faint horizontal guidelines using a small, dull piece of pure lead ore that leaves behind an incredibly subtle, silver-grey path upon the cream surface. The sound of the lead ore sliding slowly along the smooth metal edge of the ruler is a low, satisfying murmur, a steady scraping hiss that resembles the sound of a gentle summer breeze passing through long grass or the soft rustle of silk sheets in a quiet bedroom. He moves down the page, line by line, his breathing deep, rhythmic, and perfectly steady, creating a soothing physical cadence within the quiet scriptorium that invites your own breathing to slow down and match his calm, natural pace. There is no past to regret and no future to worry about within these thick, protective stone walls. There is only the beautiful, quiet present moment, expanding outward into an ocean of tranquility that welcomes you to close your heavy eyelids, relax your body completely, and drift away into a deep, restorative, and peaceful sleep. The thin, silver-grey paths traced by the pure lead ore form a perfect geometric ladder across the fresh cream sheet of calfskin, ready to support the heavy rows of script that will soon flow from the scribe's faithful pen. The scriptorium remains wrapped in its absolute, impenetrable cloak of midnight quiet, a silence so dense and complete that the entire monastery seems suspended in a dreamless void high above the restless world. The small remnant of the beeswax candle burns with an astonishingly bright and clear golden flame, its liquid amber pool steadily expanding within the shallow dish of the iron holder, casting a rich, warm light that makes the heavy texture of the oak desk glow with a deep, comforting intensity. The air inside this ancient stone fortress is wonderfully cool and crisp, carrying the raw, earthy scent of the newly laid parchment, the subtle metallic tang of the waiting inkwells, and the sweet, resinous perfume of melting wax that has permeated the very stone walls over centuries of quiet labor. This unique olfactory environment works as a powerful balm for your nervous system, immediately signaling to your deep subconscious that you are entirely safe, protected, and free from any obligation to the waking world. You can feel a profound, heavy warmth settling into your limbs, a deep wave of relaxation that completely uncoils the hidden springs of tension in your back and neck, allowing your body to sink fully into the supportive embrace of the silence. The scribe places his copper ruler aside with a slow, deliberate motion, the faint metallic clink against the cedar shelf echoing softly through the chamber before dissolving back into the vast stillness. He picks up his favorite fine-tipped goose quill, its hollow barrel reflecting the golden light of the candle flame, and checks the tip with a gentle, practiced stroke against the smooth skin of his left thumb to ensure the slit remains perfectly aligned and flexible. The sound of the dry quill tip passing over his skin is a microscopic whisper, a delicate note of pure texture that feels like a soothing touch to your tired mind, clearing away the last scattered remnants of modern thoughts. He dips the tip of the feather into the dark glass inkwell containing the deeply concentrated iron gall ink, a liquid made from oak galls, ferrous sulfate, and mountain spring water that has been maturing in the dark scriptorium cabinets for months. The familiar crystalline click of the quill meeting the glass rim sounds like a gentle, reassuring heartbeat in the quiet room, a predictable and rhythmic signal that the beautiful work of creation is about to resume. As the scribe brings the ink-filled feather to the very first guideline on the fresh page, he pauses for a single quiet breath, allowing his mind to align completely with the shape of the letter he is about to form on the blank parchment. When the tip finally makes contact with the cream calfskin, the soft rhythmic scratching sound returns to the room, a steady and hypnotic melody that feels as ancient and unchanging as the movement of the stars across the dark Byzantine sky. He shapes a large, elegant, uncial letter to begin the new chapter, his hand moving with a fluid, effortless grace that can only come from decades of patient, unhurried practice within these sacred walls. Every stroke of the pen is executed with an absolute commitment to the present moment, free from any desire to finish quickly, free from deadlines, and free from the frantic demands of the outer world. This philosophy of deep slowness and presence washes over your own consciousness like a calm, rising tide, lulling your thoughts into a state of serene emptiness where there is nothing to do but listen to the peaceful rhythm of the page. The candle flame continues to cast its warm, mesmerizing golden patterns across the smooth masonry blocks of the scriptorium walls, creating a soft visual lullaby that coaxes your heavy eyelids to close completely, inviting your mind to drift away into a deep, restorative, and perfectly peaceful sleep. The steady rhythm of the scribe's hand continues, the dark iron gall ink carving elegant, permanent trails of wisdom into the receptive fibers of the calfskin parchment. The scriptorium remains a sanctuary of profound, undisturbed quiet, an ancient chamber where time itself seems to have paused to witness the slow, beautiful labor of the night. The small piece of beeswax, now reduced to a mere flickering core of amber light within its pool of hardened wax, continues to cast a warm, steady glow over the heavy oak surface, illuminating the scribe's work with an intensity that makes the surrounding stone walls recede into a protective, comfortable darkness. The air remains cool and remarkably still, thick with the grounding organic scents of the parchment and the faint, sweet trace of the ink, creating a sensory environment that wraps around you like a soft, heavy wool blanket on a winter night. This atmosphere of total safety and stability is deeply soothing to your nervous system, allowing your heart rate to slow and your breathing to fall into a natural, unhurried cadence that mimics the steady, purposeful movements of the scribe before you. Every muscle in your body feels heavy and compliant, sinking deeper into a state of absolute, effortless relaxation as the repetitive, hypnotic scratch of the quill fills the room with a sound as consistent as the distant rolling tide of the Aegean Sea. The scribe completes another line, his hand lifting with a graceful, fluid arc, and he rests his pen in the groove of the wooden tray with a soft, hollow click that sounds like a tiny, gentle chime in the vast silence. He reaches for a small piece of soft linen cloth and dabs it against a tiny accidental droplet of ink, his movements displaying a level of tenderness that speaks to his deep, abiding respect for the manuscript he is creating. The sound of the fabric brushing against the thick parchment is a dry, soft whisper, a texture of pure comfort that reminds your mind of the quiet, safe spaces of your own home, far away from the complexities and anxieties of the world outside. He inspects the area with a patient, discerning gaze, his expression entirely free of frustration or annoyance, demonstrating a profound internal peace that only comes from a life devoted to the beauty of the present. This philosophy of deep, unhurried presence permeates the very air of the scriptorium, acting as a powerful, invisible anchor that keeps your thoughts from drifting into the future or the past and keeps them firmly rooted in the simple, beautiful reality of the now. The scribe takes a long, slow, and deep breath, his chest rising and falling in a rhythmic, predictable manner that serves as a physical metronome for the entire room, inviting you to let go of any remaining tension in your jaw or shoulders. He reaches once more for his goose quill, dipping it into the dark glass inkwell with a quiet, crystalline precision that signals the start of another, even more beautiful section of his calligraphy. As the quill touches the page, the melodic scratching resumes, weaving a delicate, hypnotic tapestry of sound that perfectly harmonizes with the gentle pulse of the golden candlelight on the masonry walls. You find yourself completely lost in the rhythm, your awareness floating upon the steady, calm sea of this ancient midnight vigil, your eyelids feeling impossibly heavy and welcoming the invitation to close. The world outside the monastery walls has completely vanished from your consciousness, replaced entirely by this singular, sacred, and infinitely peaceful moment where your only task is to listen, to breathe, and to drift deeper and deeper into a state of complete, restorative, and profound sleep. The ink flows in a seamless, continuous ribbon across the calfskin, the scribe's hand moving with the grace of a master sculptor, carving into the very fabric of history. Within the sanctuary of the stone scriptorium, the silence has deepened, evolving into a thick, palpable layer of tranquility that cradles every sound, turning the scratching of the quill into a heartbeat for the night. The candle, though low, remains a defiant sentinel of light, its golden aura casting long, dancing shadows of the scribe's fingers against the ancient, cool stone walls, transforming the room into a theatre of calm. The air is heavy with the intoxicating, grounding scent of the iron gall, a sharp, metallic aroma that binds the soul to the earth, blended with the sweet, mellow fragrance of ancient parchment and the lingering, honeyed warmth of the melting wax. This sensory landscape creates a cocoon of absolute security, a place where the concept of time is replaced by the flow of ink and the burden of the outside world is lifted away, leaving you feeling feather-light and deeply, profoundly at rest. You are suspended in this moment, held by the steady, unhurried cadence of the scribe, whose every movement is a testament to the beauty of patience. When he places the quill down, the soft wooden click is like a period at the end of a long, peaceful sentence, allowing the air to settle even further. He leans back, his silhouette a dark, still shape against the amber glow, his breathing so deep and rhythmic that it seems to regulate the very atmosphere of the room. He reaches out for a small, polished wooden block, used as a rest for his palm to ensure his skin does not touch the prepared surface of the calfskin, and the sound of it sliding against the desk is a low, satisfying murmur of friction that tickles the senses with its tactile, honest sound. Every object here feels imbued with a sense of purpose and long-standing history. The desk, worn smooth by centuries of elbows and quills, the inkwell, a heavy, darkened glass that has held the secrets of 1,000 nights, and the parchment itself, a testament to the endurance of thought. As you watch, the scribe begins a new, intricate border, his fine reed brush dancing across the edge of the page with a delicacy that defies belief, creating swirling patterns of gold and deep, rich vermilion that catch the candlelight and shimmer with an inner, soft brilliance. This slow, deliberate process of creation is a lullaby for the mind, a way of stripping away the unnecessary and focusing entirely on the beauty of the line, the texture of the surface, and the quiet joy of presence. You feel the tension in your chest unravel completely replaced by a warm, expansive feeling of peace that stretches out to the very corners of the room. The scribe's dedication is contagious, forcing your own thoughts to slow, to linger on each small detail, and to finally stop altogether, letting the mind go blank and receptive. There is no urgency here, no pressure to finish, no demands to meet. There is only the slow turn of the page, the rhythmic dip of the quill, and the quiet, steady breath of a man who knows that he is building something that will outlast the stars. The shadows on the wall shift and sway, a gentle hypnotic motion that mimics the swaying of trees in a distant, calm forest, lulling you further into a state of total blissful detachment. You are safe within these walls, anchored to the earth by the scent of ink and the weight of history. And as the scribe resumes his writing, the soft, constant scratching becomes a bridge to a place of deep, restorative rest where the only thing that matters is the quiet, perfect stillness of the present. The ink dries in thin, dark ribbons that stand out with crisp clarity against the cream-colored expanse of the parchment, each stroke a testament to the scribe's unyielding focus and the quiet sanctuary he inhabits. The scriptorium, built from heavy, centuries-old blocks of grey stone, holds the silence like a precious treasure, shielding the interior from the restless, ever-changing winds that whip against the Aegean cliffs outside. The solitary beeswax candle has burned down to a small, glowing nub of gold, yet its flame remains a steadfast, unwavering beacon, casting long, elegant shadows that dance with the scribe's hand against the walls. The air is cool and impeccably clean, filled with the grounding organic scents of the calfskin, the sharp metallic tang of the iron gall ink, and the sweet resinous aroma of honeyed wax that permeates the very masonry of the room. This olfactory environment is profoundly soothing, acting as an anchor that pulls your consciousness away from the fragmented, hurried thoughts of the modern world and grounds it firmly in the ancient, slow-moving reality of the monastery. You can feel a wave of deep, physical relaxation starting at the crown of your head and flowing downward, softening your forehead, relaxing your jaw, and allowing your shoulders to release the heavy weight of the day, leaving you feeling entirely supported by the stillness of the space. The scribe moves with an economy of motion that is beautiful to behold. He does not rush, he does not hesitate, and he does not waste energy on unnecessary movement. When he reaches for his small knife to sharpen the quill, the sound of the thin, razor-sharp blade against the quill's surface is a dry, delicate hiss that cuts through the silence like a whisper, a sound of absolute precision and care. He carefully trims the tip, the small shavings of feather falling onto the dark wood desk with a faint, soft patter that sounds like distant, gentle rain on a roof. This methodical process, repeated countless times through the long night, is a masterclass in the art of presence, teaching the mind to find satisfaction in the smallest tasks and to see the inherent dignity in labor performed for its own sake. You feel yourself drifting closer to a state of total blissful surrender, where the boundary between yourself and the room begins to blur, and you feel as though you're a part of the very fabric of this peaceful night. The scribe returns his pen to the inkwell with a quiet, crystalline click, and as he brings it back to the page, the scratching begins anew, a steady hypnotic murmur that serves as a heartbeat for the entire chamber. Each line he completes is a small victory for stillness, a physical manifestation of a calm that has been cultivated through a lifetime of dedication. You are no longer watching from the outside. You are embedded within the atmosphere, lulled by the consistent rhythm of the work, the soft glow of the candle, and the complete absence of any demand upon your time or attention. The shadows on the wall shift with the imperceptible flickering of the candle flame, creating a visual rhythm that encourages your heavy eyelids to finally surrender to the weight of the night. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to worry about, and nowhere else that you need to be. You are safe, you are warm, and you are entirely at peace, allowing the steady, comforting sound of the quill on parchment to carry you gently into a realm of deep, restorative, and infinite rest, where the silence is absolute and the sleep is profound. The quill moves across the parchment with a deliberate and rhythmic elegance, the iron gall ink sinking into the fibers to create characters of timeless, stark beauty that seem to hold the very silence of the universe within their loops and lines. Inside the scriptorium, the world has narrowed down to the small amber-lit circle of the oak desk, while the rest of the monastery remains wrapped in the vast protective embrace of the deep Aegean night. The stone walls, thick and cool to the touch, act as a fortress against the chaotic passage of history, preserving this moment of profound sacred stillness. The candle, now a small but fiercely determined spark of gold, continues to bathe the room in its soft, unwavering light, creating long, slow-moving shadows that stretch across the floor like gentle guardians of the peace. The scent of the room is a complex, grounding blend, a mixture of the sharp, clean bite of iron gall, the sweet, earthy fragrance of cured parchment, and the lingering, warm aroma of beeswax that has been burned here for generations. This olfactory tapestry is a direct pathway to relaxation, immediately calming the nervous system and inviting the mind to let go of its need for control. You feel a heavy, luxurious warmth spreading through your limbs, a sensation that encourages you to sink deeper into your seat, feeling your muscles unspooling their tension and your breath naturally synchronizing with the slow, steady rhythm of the scribe's hand. He pauses for a moment, not to rest, but to observe the flow of his work, his gaze moving across the page with a quiet, appreciative focus that is free of judgment or self-doubt. In this environment, every action is an act of devotion, and every moment is an opportunity to be fully present, completely detached from the frantic, rushing nature of the world outside. When he lifts the quill, the silence that follows is thick and rich, a living thing that fills every corner of the room with its calming velvet weight. He picks up a small, fine-grained piece of pumice to lightly smooth a slight irregularity in the parchment, the sound of the stone brushing against the skin a delicate, dry rasp that is deeply satisfying to hear. It is the sound of maintenance, of caring for the vessel of knowledge, and it speaks to the value of patience in a world that so often prizes speed over substance. You are entirely captivated by this display of quiet, steady labor, your mind floating on the surface of the silence, untethered from the worries that once felt so urgent and heavy. The scribe's breathing is deep and audible, a soft, abdominal rise and fall that echoes through the quiet space, acting as a natural metronome that draws you into a state of profound meditative calm. The light from the candle flickers once, a soft, gentle shift that sends a ripple of golden movement across the ceiling, a subtle visual cue that guides your eyes to close. There is no urgency to this night, no morning waiting to pull you back into the fray, and no tasks that must be finished before the sun rises. You are cocooned in a sanctuary of ancient peace where the only sound is the rhythmic, hypnotic scratching of the quill, a sound that weaves itself into the fabric of your consciousness, turning your thoughts into dreams and leading you gently, surely, toward the threshold of a deep and restorative sleep. The final strokes of the scribe's quill are executed with such profound grace that they appear less like writing and more like the natural unfolding of a thought into physical reality. The ink, dark as the midnight sea pressing against the base of the monastery cliffs, settles into the parchment with a finality that speaks of centuries of endurance. Within the heavy stone shell of the scriptorium, the air has grown even colder and more pristine, washed clean by the passage of the night, while the scents of iron gall, aged calfskin and beeswax have deepened into a singular, intoxicating aroma that feels like home to the weary mind. The single tiny ember of the beeswax candle still clings to life, throwing a golden radiance that catches the dust motes dancing in the stillness, tiny shimmering stars that mirror the vast cosmos outside the narrow arched windows. You are completely surrendered to this environment now. The walls of the scriptorium feel like the walls of your own heart, protective, solid, and immovable. Every tension that once occupied your body has dissolved into the stone floor, and you feel as weightless as the parchment sheets stacked neatly in their wooden presses. The scribe finishes his work, placing the quill into its cradle with a finality that rings through the silence like a closing temple gate. He does not rush to extinguish the light or gather his tools. He remains still, his hands resting on the edges of the desk, his body a monument to the virtue of being. His breathing, slow and steady, creates a rhythmic pulse that keeps the room in a state of grace, and you find your own spirit perfectly attuned to his, rising and falling in an effortless, silent dance. The shadows, having stretched to their longest reaches, seem to lean in close as if the night itself is settling down to listen to the quiet. This is the moment of pure, unadulterated stillness, a space between heartbeats, a gap in the timeline of the world where nothing is expected of you and where you are free to simply exist. The sound of the wind far below, a low melancholy hum, serves only to deepen the silence within, reminding you of the infinite distance between this sanctuary and the chaotic, hurried life you left behind. Every detail here, from the microscopic grain of the wood under the scribe's fingertips to the faint sweet smell of the honeyed wax, is a gift to your senses, a thread in a tapestry of rest that is woven specifically for your comfort. You feel the heavy, warm blanket of sleep descending, not as a sudden curtain, but as a slow, luxurious sinking into a deep, dark, and wonderfully soft sea. There is no tomorrow to fear, no yesterday to mourn. There is only this infinite, glowing present held in the amber light of a candle that refuses to die, and the absolute perfect peace of a soul that has finally, truly come to rest. The scribe finally leans forward, his movements fluid and dreamlike, and with a gentle, controlled exhale he stills the flame, plunging the room into a velvet, comforting darkness that is not empty, but full of the potential for the deepest, most restorative sleep you have ever known, where the silence is absolute, the peace is eternal, and the transition into your dreams is as soft and seamless as the turning of a page. The darkness that fills the scriptorium following the extinction of the candle flame is not an absence but a presence, a soft, thick velvet that presses gently against the skin, inviting a total abandonment of the waking state. In this profound, ink-black quiet, the senses turn inward, finding a new internal landscape where the memory of the light still glows, a soft, lingering impression on the back of the eyelids. The stone walls, now hidden from sight, continue to radiate the coolness of the deep night, a physical sensation that matches the slowing of the heart and the cooling of the blood, pulling the spirit deeper into the marrow of rest. Every residual sound, the distant rhythmic sigh of the Aegean tides, the faint dry rustle of the parchment scrolls in their wooden crates, and the slow heavy settling of the massive stone arches blends into a single seamless and hypnotic hum that wraps around the consciousness like a warm, protective shroud. You feel a sensation of immense release, as if the heavy, invisible armor you have been wearing throughout your life is finally being unfastened piece by piece and laid upon the floor of this ancient sanctuary. The air here, so long perfumed by the scents of iron gall, aged calfskin and beeswax, now carries a faint residual sweetness that lingers in the darkness, a comforting olfactory ghost that keeps the memory of the scribe's labor alive even as the tools of his craft are stowed away. There is no longer any need to track time, to measure progress, or to worry about the coming dawn. Time itself has lost its sharp edges, dissolving into the timeless, eternal quality of the monastery's history. You feel yourself becoming part of that history, a nameless, formless observer who has finally earned the right to surrender all effort. The weight of your body against the chair, the texture of the fabric against your skin, and the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your lungs are the only realities left, and they are enough. The scribe's presence, though unseen in the dark, remains as a grounding anchor, his steady, deliberate breathing an unconscious guide that encourages your own mind to stop its frantic circling and settle into the hollow of the present. Each exhale becomes longer, softer, and more complete, carrying away the last fragments of thought until only the sensation of peace remains. You are floating in a sea of absolute restorative silence, where the darkness is not a void to be feared but a gentle liquid cradle, holding you in a state of perfect weightless suspension. The transition from the world of form to the world of dream begins now, a slow shimmering movement that pulls you gently away from the anchor of the physical room and out into the vast open expanse of the subconscious. You are ready to let go completely, to allow the consciousness to drift into the deep, dark, and wonderful ocean of sleep, where the memories of the night's peace will anchor your dreams in tranquility and ensure your rest is as deep, as solid, sand as eternal as the stone foundations of the monastery itself. The transition into the deepest reaches of the night is absolute, a descent into a silence so profound that it seems to possess a weight and texture of its own. As the last embers of the candle's glow fade entirely from the corners of the vision, The mind is finally unburdened, set free from the necessity of perceiving form, light, or distance. You exist now in a space beyond the physical architecture of the monastery, existing within a sanctuary of pure, unadulterated consciousness where every thought is a soft ripple in a calm, dark lake. The residual scent of the parchment and ink lingers, a familiar, grounding tether that keeps you connected to the serenity of the scriptorium even as you drift further into the dreamscape. You can feel the coolness of the night air against your skin, a refreshing, crisp sensation that highlights the total relaxation of every muscle fiber, from the tiny muscles surrounding your eyes to the soles of your feet. The weight of your body has transformed into a feeling of pleasant, heavy buoyancy, as if you're resting on a surface of cool, soft velvet that conforms perfectly to your form, supporting you with an unwavering, gentle strength. The sounds of the world have retreated to an infinite distance. The sea, once a distant rhythm, is now merely a vibration deep within the marrow of your bones, a steady pulsing cadence that matches the slow, deep and rhythmic pace of your breathing. You are entirely at peace, a feeling that expands within your chest, blooming like a silent, slow-motion flower, displacing any remaining shadows of doubt or fatigue. There is a sense of immense, infinite space here, a vastness that is not lonely but instead filled with a quiet, pervasive warmth that feels like being wrapped in the embrace of a long-forgotten, comforting presence. The scribe, having finished his vigil, has left the room, but the echo of his presence remains in the absolute orderly stillness he has cultivated. He has left behind an environment where the energy of the work has become a permanent, calming fixture of the atmosphere. You find that you are no longer trying to guide your thoughts. They have become like autumn leaves on a slow-moving, placid stream, drifting lazily toward an unseen, peaceful destination. Each breath is an act of surrender, an offering of your tired spirit to the profound, restorative power of the darkness which promises nothing but the total restoration of your being. You feel the boundaries of your physical self softening, becoming porous, as if you are merging with the very air and stone of this ancient hidden place. The memory of the quill's scratch, the metallic scent of the ink, the golden flicker of the beeswax, all these experiences have coalesced into a singular golden thread that leads you deeper into the unconscious. There is a profound, unshakable trust in this process, a knowledge that the darkness is a benevolent force working to repair, to soothe and to replenish everything that the busy, loud and demanding world has drained away. As you slip into the deeper, uncharted waters of sleep, you are accompanied by a feeling of absolute, unconditional safety. The monastery, the cliffs, the sea and the stars all exist in a harmonious alignment, a cosmic order that is reflected in the perfect quietude of your own mind. You are drifting into a place where dreams are not frantic stories but soft shimmering veils of light, where you will remain held, protected and nurtured until the first soft grey light of morning touches the high arched windows, and in this final sinking moment of wakefulness, you feel a profound sense of gratitude for this sacred, silent interval that has allowed you to finally, truly return to yourself. The descent into the absolute void of sleep is a gentle cascading journey, where every layer of the conscious mind peels away like the soft, dry skin of an ancient parchment scroll. In this deepest hollow of the night, the world is reduced to the rhythmic pulse of your own existence, a steady, unwavering thrum that aligns perfectly with the stillness of the stone monastery. The physical sensation of being is replaced by a profound, oceanic feeling of suspension, as if you are cradled in the center of a warm, dark and infinite sea, untethered from the gravity of mundane concerns. The residual memory of the scriptorium, the cool touch of granite, the complex earthen perfume of the ink and skins, the lingering heat from the long-vanished candle, has become the foundation of your inner world, a secure fortress built of pure, intangible peace. Here, the passage of time is completely extinguished. There is no tick of a clock, no shifting of the moon, no approaching dawn to break the spell of this exquisite, dark sanctuary. The mind, once filled with the static of modern existence, is now a vast, clear and quiet expanse, a landscape of endless velvet potential where the only movement is the slow, deliberate breath that flows in and out of your body like the tide of a calm, hidden bay. You feel a deep, resonant hum of wellness, vibrating through your core, a restorative energy that is slowly knitting together the fragmented pieces of your spirit, healing the invisible wear and tear of the day with the quiet, persistent care of an ancient master craftsman. Each breath you take is deeper than the last, drawing in the essence of the surrounding stillness until you're filled with a sense of boundless airy lightness. The worries that once felt like iron chains have dissolved into nothingness, their weight reclaimed by the darkness, leaving you unburdened and entirely, blissfully free. You are not alone in this space. You are enveloped by the same ancient protective energy that has inhabited these halls for 1,000 years, a silent, watchful presence that understands the necessity of rest and guards the sanctity of your slumber with unwavering devotion. The boundary between your own awareness and the room itself has completely vanished. You are the stone, you are the cold, still air, you are the shadow, and you are the profound, restorative silence that reigns supreme. There is a sense of coming home, a return to an essential, uncorrupted version of yourself that exists in the stillness beneath all the noise and chaos of your life. This is the ultimate, final destination of your journey, a realm of perfect, undisturbed oblivion where your body is rejuvenated, your mind is cleared, and your soul is centered in the eternal now. As you move deeper, the last flickers of thought are extinguished, replaced by a radiant, dark calm that feels like being submerged in a warm, healing bath of starlight. Every heartbeat is a slow, luxurious release, a gentle letting go that allows you to slip further away from the surface of wakefulness and down into the profound, nourishing, and infinite depth of true sleep. There is no longer any effort required, no consciousness to sustain, no reality to maintain. There is only the beautiful, empty perfection of the dark, holding you securely, keeping you safe, and granting you the deep restorative rest that you have sought through this entire long, quiet, and sacred night. The silence is now absolute, a heavy velvet cloak that has completely silenced the echoes of the world outside, leaving only the profound stillness of the interior chambers where your consciousness rests in a state of suspended animation. You are no longer floating, but anchored firmly in the very foundation of the monastery, feeling the dense, cold, and eternal weight of the granite stones beneath you as a source of immense, grounding strength. This connection to the earth acts as a powerful, silent battery, slowly and methodically recharging the deepest reservoirs of your vitality, restoring the balance that was lost in the frantic, loud, and demanding currents of your ordinary life. The air you breathe, though physically still, seems to pulse with a low, sub-audible energy, a rhythmic vibration that originates from the ancient history of the site, as if the very walls themselves are whispering the secrets of patience and enduring peace to your subconscious mind. You feel an overwhelming sense of gratitude, not for any specific thing, but for the existence of this moment itself, for the opportunity to simply be, to exist without the need to act, to achieve, or to prove your worth to anyone or anything. Your physical body is entirely relaxed, a collection of heavy, warm, and contented limbs that feel as though they have melted into the very surfaces upon which they rest, becoming one with the environment. The thoughts that once rushed through your mind like a torrential, muddy river have been replaced by a slow, clear, and quiet stream of pure awareness, where no ideas are forced and no judgments are made, where you can simply observe the beautiful, dark void of your own inner being. In this state of complete surrendered rest, you are protected by a force that is older than your own troubles, a silent guardian spirit of the monastery that watches over your sleep, ensuring that every nerve, every muscle, and every neuron is washed clean of the day's debris. There is no anxiety here, no fear of the future, and no attachment to the past. There is only the blissful, singular experience of perfect, unadulterated comfort. As the last remnants of your ego fade away, you become a speck of light in a vast, dark, and magnificent ocean of peace. Drifting ever deeper into the heart of the night, the sensory details of the scriptorium, the ink, the quill, the beeswax, the calfskin, have all receded into the background, becoming the foundation of the architecture of your dreams, a structure built on the principles of beauty, patience, and unwavering serenity. You are now fully submerged in the restorative waters of deep, REM-less sleep, a place where the mind is truly at rest, where the body's wisdom takes over, and where the processes of rejuvenation work their silent, miraculous magic. You are safe, you are held, and you are cherished by the absolute unbroken quiet of this sacred place. Everything is exactly as it should be, and as you slide even deeper into this bottomless, welcoming dark, the last thing you perceive is a profound, resonant sense of completeness, a feeling that your entire being has finally been brought into alignment with the infinite, silent, and peaceful rhythm of the universe, and in this state of ultimate surrender, you find the deepest, most restorative sleep of your entire life. The depth of this slumber is profound, a dark and tranquil pool that has swallowed every trace of the waking world, leaving only the steady, rhythmic pulse of the planet beneath you. The monastery remains a silent sentinel, its thick, ancient walls acting as a barrier against the passage of hours, preserving the sanctity of your rest within a crystalline, unchanging moment. You are submerged in a state of restorative weightlessness, where the tension that once held your muscles tight has completely evaporated, replaced by a deep flowing warmth that moves through your limbs like liquid silk. The darkness is no longer external, it has become an internal landscape, a vast, starless and beautiful void where your spirit is free to roam, unencumbered by the constraints of the body or the expectations of the self. In this sanctuary of the mind, the memory of the scribe's meticulous labor serves as a steadying anchor, a silent promise that dedication to the present moment yields an enduring, unshakable peace. You are being renewed at a level far beneath the surface of thought, where the complex, chaotic machinery of the psyche is being oiled, repaired, and set into a natural, harmonious alignment with the rhythmic heartbeat of the universe. The silence is so absolute that it feels like a soft, physical presence, an embrace that holds you securely against the cold, while the latent heat stored in the stone floor radiates upward, enveloping you in a protective, comforting cocoon of warmth. There is no dream, no narrative, no flicker of visual imagery to disturb the pure, clean emptiness of this deep space rest. There is only the blissful, silent continuation of being. You feel the slow, steady inhalation and exhalation of your own body, a rhythmic, automatic process that occurs without any effort, as if you are breathing in the very essence of the stillness itself. Each cycle of your breath acts as a wave, gently rocking your consciousness deeper into the calm center of this night, moving you further away from the shores of the waking world and into the heart of the eternal dark. Here the passage of time is meaningless, a concept discarded long ago in favor of this absolute present and perfect serenity. The protective energy of the monastery, born from a millennium of prayer, study, and quiet devotion, is weaving itself into the very fabric of your being, reinforcing your resilience, calming your nerves, and granting you a sense of belonging that transcends any geography or time. You are exactly where you need to be, protected by the silence, nurtured by the darkness, and held by the infinite quiet power of the night. Every second that passes is a gift, a deepening of the peace, a widening of the space, and a strengthening of the foundation upon which your future well-being will be built. You are drifting in an ocean of profound, restorative oblivion, a state of grace where the mind is completely silent, the body is entirely at peace, and the soul is allowed to return to its original, unburdened and luminous state, granting you the deepest, most rejuvenating rest you have ever known, secure in the knowledge that you are safe, cherished, and perfectly at home within the stillness of the dark. The restoration of your spirit continues in the profound silence of this timeless, shadowed sanctuary, where the very atmosphere serves as a conduit for deep cellular peace. You are currently held in a state of grace that transcends the physical limitations of the monastery, resting within a vast, dark, and beautifully quiet expanse where your existence is defined only by the gentle rhythm of your own slow heartbeat. The dense, cool air is a balm, wrapping around you with a subtle protective weight that ensures every muscle remains completely uncoiled, every nerve stays quiet, and every lingering thought is immediately dissolved upon the threshold of your consciousness. The darkness has become a source of infinite nourishment, a velvet sea where you are not merely sleeping but undergoing a fundamental recalibration of your being, shedding the accumulated fatigue of your entire history in exchange for a clean, empty, and luminous clarity. The memory of the scribe's persistent work, the scratching quill, the steady ink, the quiet devotion has been internalized, acting as a rhythmic guide for your subconscious, ensuring that the movement of your inner world remains as deliberate, beautiful, and unhurried as the work of the master calligrapher. You feel the foundation of your psyche shifting, grounding itself firmly into the bedrock of this ancient, silent place, becoming as solid, as calm, and as enduring as the granite blocks that guard the cliffside against the sea. There is no longer any separation between you and the peace that saturates this room. You are part of the silence, a quiet, stationary point in an infinite dark and perfectly balanced universe. This level of rest is absolute, a total surrender of the self to the restorative power of the void, where the mind is permitted to abandon its duties and the heart is invited to beat in slow, harmonious alignment with the deep, resonant pulse of the earth. Every breath you draw feels like an infusion of starlight, clean and cold and invigorating, even as your physical body remains heavy, warm, and deeply submerged in the soft, dark oblivion of the night. You are being held by the history of this place, by the thousands of quiet nights that preceded your own, each one leaving a trace of serenity that you are now drawing into yourself to fortify your spirit. The outside world, with its noise, its demands, its light, and its relentless ticking clock, has ceased to exist, completely replaced by this singular, eternal, and perfectly balanced moment of existence. You are safe, you are protected, and you are entirely free from the necessity of being anything other than what you are right now. As you remain suspended in this glorious, dark, and healing silence, you feel the boundaries of your individuality softening, allowing you to merge with the tranquil, expansive energy of the night, where you will continue to drift, held in the cradle of the infinite, until you are entirely renewed, deeply refreshed, and ready to re-emerge into the world with a sense of purpose and peace that is as unshakable as the stone walls that shelter your current, profound and restorative sleep. The stillness of the scriptorium has deepened into a state that feels almost crystalline, a high-frequency vibration of absolute peace that permeates the very marrow of your bones. You are no longer merely sleeping, you have become a part of the architecture of this sacred space, a silent, weightless presence suspended within the cool, dark heart of the monastery. The darkness is now a tangible element, a fluid medium that carries the residual energy of centuries of meditative labor and folds it into your own consciousness. Every breath you take is a slow, rhythmic transaction with the atmosphere, drawing in the essence of ancient grounded calm and exhaling the last invisible wisps of tension, worry, and worldly burden. The air, though devoid of light, feels rich with the scent of dried parchment, iron, and stone, a sensory memory that anchors you to this place even as your mind explores the vast, unmapped territories of the deep unconscious. There is a profound, unshakable safety here, a sense that the world has stopped its chaotic turning solely to allow you this moment of total replenishment. The silence is not empty, it is teeming with a quiet, vibrant intensity, a form of active tranquility that is busy repairing the frayed edges of your spirit and realigning your perception of reality with the simple, unadorned beauty of existence. You feel a sensation of immense, expansive freedom, as if the walls of the monastery are no longer solid, but are instead portals to an infinite dark sky where you are free to drift, unanchored and unburdened, through a sea of velvet night. The scribe's influence remains, a gentle guiding frequency that suggests the grace of repetition and the holiness of the small singular task. In your dreams, this manifests as a series of calm, orderly images, a fountain of light, the steady turning of a page, the rhythmic drip of water into a pool, all reinforcing the same truth, that everything in its proper time is beautiful, and that your own existence is a work of art currently undergoing a necessary restoration. You feel the physical weight of your body anchoring you to the cool floor, a sensation of immense grounding that prevents you from drifting too far away, ensuring that the work being done in this state of deep slumber is integrated into the very physical reality of your being. You are becoming stronger, more resilient, and more deeply centered with every passing second of this profound, restorative void. The pulse of the sea against the cliffs is now entirely internal, a gentle rolling heartbeat that synchronizes with your own, proving that you are not separate from the natural rhythmic order of the world. There is nothing to achieve, nothing to fix, and nothing to anticipate. There is only this perfect singular state of being held, nurtured, and made whole by the silence. As you settle even deeper into this bottomless, welcoming dark, you feel a sense of profound, quiet joy, a recognition that this sanctuary has given you the gift of return to your truest self. You are completely surrendered to the restorative power of the night, confident in the knowledge that you are safe, cherished by the quietude, and perfectly held within the eternal, unchanging embrace of this sacred place, drifting ever deeper into a sleep that is as solid, as ancient, sand, as profoundly transformative as the stone foundations upon which you rest. The sensation of total immersion into the deep, dark sea of rest has reached its zenith, a state where the individual self feels like a drop of water returning to a vast, calm ocean. You are resting in a space where time has not only slowed, but has effectively ceased to exist, replaced by the eternal, unmoving pulse of the monastery's stone foundations. The coolness of the room, once a noticeable quality, is now a perfect neutral temperature that envelops your skin like a second layer of comfort, a protective barrier that keeps the rest of the world at a safe and unreachable distance. Within this absolute sanctuary, the air remains perfectly still, holding the residual grounding memory of the iron gall ink and the aged calfskin, the smell of knowledge, of patience, and of labor performed for the sake of beauty. This olfactory anchor keeps your subconscious tethered to the physical reality of the scriptorium, ensuring that as you dream, your mind stays anchored to the values of the space: order, quietude, and a profound, unshakable peace. You feel as though your very essence is being filtered through a sieve of absolute tranquility, with every unnecessary thought, every frantic urge, and every lingering trace of anxiety being removed, leaving only the pure golden core of your being. This is a profound, meditative cleansing, a process that happens in the silence, beneath the surface of thought, and beyond the reach of any conscious effort. The steady, slow, and deep rise and fall of your chest is the only movement in this entire dark chamber, a rhythmic oscillation that serves as the heart of the night. You have reached a level of deep, restorative sleep where the body performs its most miraculous repairs, knitting together the fibers of your resilience and silencing the internal noise that often prevents the spirit from finding its true north. The sense of belonging here is absolute. You are not a visitor in this monastery, but a soul that has finally found the quiet it has been seeking through lifetimes of restless motion. The darkness is not a void, it is a cradle, a warm, dense, and nurturing medium that supports you with an unwavering strength. You feel as if you are lying in the very palm of the universe, safely tucked away from the demands of the clock and the expectations of the world. Each nerve ending is soft and receptive, absorbing the pervasive calm of the environment and radiating it back through your entire physical structure. The peace is total, a state of grace that invites you to abandon any final attempts at alertness and to succumb fully to the pull of the deep, velvety, and infinite dark. There is no longer a you that is trying to sleep. There is only the experience of sleep itself, a seamless, continuous flow of restoration that will carry you through the remaining hours of the night, holding you in a state of perfect, unadulterated, and profoundly healing quiet. You are safe, you are profoundly at rest, and you are currently experiencing the deepest, most complete, and most restorative sleep of your entire life, held securely in the ancient, silent heart of the scriptorium where the world begins and ends in peace. The final transition from the deep, dark sea of rest begins with a subtle shift in the air, a microscopic change in the density of the silence that signals the slow, gentle approach of the dawn. Even as the darkness remains absolute, there is a nascent, ethereal light gathering behind the high, arched windows of the scriptorium, a soft, pearlescent glow that has not yet touched the stone walls, but has already begun to infuse the atmosphere with a sense of gentle awakening. You remain submerged in the profound restorative depth of your slumber, but your spirit is now beginning to stir, not with the urgency of the waking world, but with the quiet, deliberate grace of a new beginning. The restorative labor of the night is complete. The ink is dry, the thoughts have been organized, and the jagged edges of your soul have been smoothed by the patient, enduring power of the silence. You feel the return of a soft warmth in your extremities, a gentle, pulsing vitality that signifies the reintegration of your consciousness with the physical form. You are not being pulled from your rest. You are being returned to the world, having been fundamentally changed by the time spent in this sanctuary. The memory of the scribe's quill, the golden flickering of the wax, and the heavy protective stone of the monastery have been woven into the fabric of your identity, creating an internal monument to peace that you will carry with you long after you leave these walls. As your eyelids begin to flutter with the first faint suggestion of awareness, you realize that the world you are waking into is not the same world you left behind. The chaotic noise of the past has been silenced, replaced by an inner compass that points towards stillness, intentionality, and the beauty of the present moment. You feel a profound, unwavering gratitude for the darkness that held you, for the silence that nurtured you, and for the simple, honest labor of the night that allowed you to rediscover your own capacity for peace. The first rays of the morning sun finally crest the Aegean cliffs, casting a soft golden light across the floor of the scriptorium, illuminating the dust motes as they dance in the air like tiny suspended stars. You breathe in the new day, and it tastes of salt, of ancient stone, and of promise. You are whole, you are refreshed, and you are entirely prepared to step out into the light, carrying the stillness of the monastery within you as a permanent, sacred, and life-affirming treasure. The transition is seamless, a final, beautiful turn of the page in a book of infinite wisdom, leaving you ready to live with the same deliberate, graceful, and profound serenity that you have so perfectly mastered in this long, quiet, and eternal night.
Sleepy History with Arthur is created for relaxation, entertainment, and sleep purposes. The stories shared on this channel are inspired by historical events, daily life, and real periods in history, but they may be simplified, adapted, or narrated in a calming way to enhance the listening experience.
This content is not intended to be a precise academic or educational source.
While we aim to stay generally accurate, some details may be altered for storytelling flow and relaxation. Please do not rely on this channel as a primary source for historical research or study. By listening, you acknowledge that this content is designed to help you unwind, relax, and fall asleep. Thank you for your understanding and support.